evening, everyone. Thank you so much to everyone who's joined us this evening, whether you're joining us here in the council chamber or you're joining us via our BevCam feed. And thank you, as always, to Kim in our BevCam booth for keeping our meetings live streaming and accessible for folks to be able to view them and join them from wherever they are at the time that they can. We really appreciate our BevCam partners for that, and it's very important. We also appreciate those who are here with us in the council chamber this evening. We do have a fairly full agenda, and I typically like to run through what is before us this evening before officially calling the meeting to order, just so that we can all be on the same page about what we've got before us. So this evening, we do have a proclamation, a joint proclamation with the mayor that we'll be getting to right at the beginning. This is honoring a teacher at the YMCA for some quick thinking that resulted in life-saving action. We'll say more about that. We also have our Exemplary Youth Awards that will be presented this evening. So those are two wonderful opportunities to celebrate folks in our community. We look forward to that, and thank you for joining us. We do have two members of the public who signed up to speak during our public comment portion. This is a section of the meeting that's on every regular meeting agenda. These are up to 5 spots, up to 3 minutes per speaker, and they can be signed up for by contacting the city clerk's office no later than 9:30 the morning of the meeting. 2 folks have signed up for that. So we will take those as soon as we can within the meeting, but we do have a 7:45 posted public hearing that we will need to open and take at that time. And then we've got some routine business to take care of. We'll take a brief break for some subcommittee work, and then we'll be able to come back after the subcommittee work to finish things up and for closing discussion with the council for this evening. So with that, I'll officially call to order this regular meeting of the Beverly City Council, Monday, May 18th, 7:00 p.m. Ms. Kent, will you please call the roll?
Crowley. Here. Feldman. Here. Hausman. Here. Milady. Here. Rotundo. Here. Sonia. Here. Spang. Here. St. Hilaire. Here. And Flowers.
Here. Thank you, Ms. Kent. Councilor St. Hilaire, if you would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'd ask that we all remain standing for a moment of silence for former City Councilor Roger Morency, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Councilor St. Hilaire, for leading us in that Pledge of Allegiance, and thank you all for pausing for that moment of silence. Roger Morency, as I mentioned, was a former city councilor here in the city of Beverly. Roger died recently on May 15th. He was also a former Beverly Public Library trustee and just an incredibly involved community member and part of a very large and involved Beverly family. Many of us may know members of the Morency and or the Witwicky families, and so we want to hold them in our hearts as they are remembering Roger and as they are saying goodbye at this time. And certainly we thank Roger for his service to the city of Beverly and for his love of the city as well. So let's begin with our first agenda item. This is the Joint Proclamation, Order 137. Mayor Cahill, I see that you're here with us as well. And so, Mayor, I'll join you at the podium. I have the proclamation, and I'd invite Marie Parisi to join us at the podium as well, if Marie is here, as well as Tim Flaherty. Would you like to join us at the podium as well?
I'm going to turn that over to my sidekick today.
All right. That sounds great. And while I'm talking about former city councilors, also former Councilor Flaherty, it's nice to see you in the chamber.
He's taking pictures already. After you, Madam President. You want to start?
Sure. Well, thank you. Thank you for joining us today. And thank you, Mayor, for doing this joint proclamation together with the City Council. So whereas Marie Parisi has dedicated the past 10 years to serving the children and families of Beverly through her work as a teacher at the YMCA, providing care and early education to toddlers and preschool-age children, and
Whereas on December 16th, 2025, during a routine lunch period, Marie quickly recognized that a preschool student was choking and without hesitation took immediate action to perform abdominal thrusts. And
Whereas, through her calm, decisive, and skilled response, Marie was able to safely dislodge the obstruction and prevent what could have been a far more serious outcome. And
whereas Marie's actions reflect her training and professionalism, as well as her deep commitment to the safety and well-being of the children in her care. And
whereas her dedication exemplifies the very best of those who serve our youth. Now, therefore, on behalf of the citizens of the city of Beverly, on this 18th day of May, 2026, it is our distinct honor to recognize and commend Marie Parisi for her quick thinking, her selfless action, and her unwavering commitment to the children of our community, and extend our sincere gratitude for the positive and lasting impact she continues to make in the city of Beverly.
in honor of this occasion, I, Michael P. Cahill, Mayor,
And I, City Council President Julie R. Flowers,
together with our esteemed colleagues on the Beverly City Council, declare May 18th, 2026 as Marie Parisi Day in the city of Beverly. Nothing at all?
No, thank you very much. We just need to get you a pen.
I noticed. Still don't have a pen, huh? I know I left it in there.
I left one up there.
Oh, okay.
I'll get it for you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. We asked if Marie would like to say something, and she said, no, thank you. So we'll just do maybe another round of applause and so much gratitude for Marie.
You're so good.
To Marie. So, Marie, here's your official proclamation proclaiming this your day. And councilors, I would entertain a motion to approve Order 137. That is the joint proclamation we just heard, recognizing Marie for her quick thinking and for her life-saving actions for that child. All those in favor? That carries 9-0, so that is approved. And congratulations and thank you again, Marie. We'll go now to our Exemplary Youth Awards, and Councilor Rotundo, I'll invite you to join the mayor and anybody else from the WISE team there at the podium for this presentation. Thank you.
Are you sure? It's okay. Well, thank you all. Thank you, Madam President. I think I'll just lead by saying that and I've said this many times, we have so many talented young people in this community, and there are never enough opportunities to celebrate them. I want to thank especially Councilor Rotundo, Kawehi, Morrison from the YMCA, and their colleagues on the Beverly Youth Collaborative Board for bringing back this recognition 2 years ago, 3 years ago? It's been a few years. Year three. And so they do all the work in soliciting from adults in the community these nominations of some of our young people who are really showing courage, showing leadership, really living exemplary lives in our community. So I'm excited that we get to honor them. And where Kavehi was on the selection committee, I want to ask her to do the bios of the 5 students, the 5 young folks we're going to bring up in a minute. And we'll call them up one at a time to get their awards. And then after, I don't want to speak for you, Madam President. I know you generally want to give a chance for photos and such. So.
Yes, we'll definitely pause so that folks can do pictures and And also anybody, I'll say this again, but anybody who would like to stay for the whole meeting is certainly welcome, but if some of our honorees would like to be able to go on to some other things this evening, you can leave at that point as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks. So as I said, Kaveh, going to come and we'll call you up one at a time, and we're just very excited to honor you tonight. Kaveh?
Thank you, Mayor Cahill. I appreciate that. You know, the Youth Exemplary Award was established back in 1996, and we have some beautiful, what do you call that? Pictures, thank you. Thinking in Hawaiian right now. We have some beautiful articles that are from former newspapers that were with the city of Beverly. I'd like to thank Todd Rotundo for helping us to reignite all of this. I'd like to thank the mayor for supporting it. And then I'd like to thank Tim Flaherty for actually igniting it one more time after he had started it back in 1996. The Youth Exemplary Award recognizes young people who have faced significant adversity or challenges and turned them into opportunities for personal growth and community impact. This program originally started in 1992 by Tim Flaherty, and he was at that time he worked for the city. He was the youth director, but now he's our executive director. And then it was reignited in March of 2024, co-sponsored by the mayor's office. This award was created to celebrate the resilience that defines our city. We are here to honor you outstanding young people, ages 7 to 19, who have looked adversity in the face and chosen to lead with courage, determination, and grace. For the elementary school award winner, this person has shown incredible determination by giving 150% to her education and personal growth, soaring academically while overcoming obstacles with grace. She has truly mastered the school year, proving her resilience as she builds meaningful relationships and excels against all odds. I'd like to welcome Morgan Schmoro. Our next award recipient is for middle school. We actually have a tie here. The first student is a standout student and courageous advocate who demonstrates rare empathy and powerful drive toward justice. From local school committee meetings to Washington, D.C., this dedicated leader uses a powerful voice to champion the rights and safety of the community by balancing academic responsibilities and high-level civic engagement. Lil transformed adversity into meaningful action and serves as an inspiring asset to the entire Beverly community. Welcome, Lil Contos. Thank you. Our next award recipient is also from the middle school and is a remarkable example of resilience and grit facing recurring health challenges with a head held high. Attitude that inspires everyone around her, her unwavering dedication to her education and her passions, even in the midst of adversity, demonstrates a profound strength of character that defines what it means to be an exemplary youth. Let's welcome Maddie St. Pierre. All right, and our last recipient is from our high school. This student is a student of rare intellectual curiosity who consistently pushes beyond the standard curriculum to master complex topics in computer sciences and physics. His academic maturity is matched by a profound commitment to service, demonstrated through over 100 hours of volunteer work with the Red Cross and his dedicated leadership within the MCJ-ROTC. Jack truly embodies the essence of an exemplary youth through his unique blend of innovation, hard work, and compassion for his community. Join me in welcoming Jack Bryson Barrow. Thank you, everyone. And again, thank you to our committee, Katie Nelson, Lorigan Sudak, Todd Rotundo, and she's not here right now, Miss Femino. Thank you.
Thank you. So congratulations to all of our exemplary youth recipients. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you for having your families and your friends here with us this evening. It's truly an honor to be able to recognize and to celebrate young people across many different ages in our community. And I always say one of the most fun things when we get to have young people in the community here with us in the council chamber. So thank you for being here, counselors and anyone else in attendance. I think one more round of applause and a standing ovation for all of our young people. And of course, our thanks to members of the YMCA team who are here with us this evening. Thank you and congratulations again to Marie for your professionalism and your dedication and your quick action. But thank you also for the teaching and the care that you give some of our youngest children, our youngest learners every single day. We thank you for that as well. Counselors, I would entertain a motion for a 10-minute recess so that if folks would like pictures or a chance to greet counselors and we can offer our congratulations. And then if any of our young people particularly, we know you have probably homework and busy lives and other things you may need to get to this evening, but for anyone who may also want to step out, you can feel free to do that during the recess time, or of course, you can stay with us for as long as you would like during the evening. So motion for a 10-minute recess. All those in favor? 9-0, we'll be back in 10 minutes. Thank you. Hi, everyone. We'll call the full council back to order following that recess. With our congratulations again to our exemplary young people who we had the opportunity to honor this evening and to celebrate their courageousness, their work, and all that they do in our community, as well as honoring Marie Parisi, the preschool teacher at the Y, for her work and for her life-saving actions. So we thank them for being here with us. And now we do have some time before our posted public hearing. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the evening, we do have 2 folks who signed up for the public comment spots. And just as a reminder for those who are following our meetings, I always like to mention that these spots are available at every regular meeting of the City Council. There are up to 5 public comment spots. They are 3 minutes per speaker, and they are first come, first served. They can be signed up for by contacting the city clerk no later than 9:30 the morning of the meeting. These are not spots where you'll see the council interact back and forth. It's not a question and answer or a conversation back and forth with our speakers, but it is an opportunity for members of the public to come and to speak with the council about things that are on your mind or things that you are thinking about here in Beverly. And I always like to say that even though you won't see a question and answer or engagement back and forth, does not mean that the council is not listening and taking in what we're hearing. And often this public comment does go on to inform our future conversation and discussions with one another here in the chamber as well. So let's go to our 2 speakers who have signed up. Vice President St. Hilaire, would you mind being our timekeeper? And our first speaker is Caleb McCauley. Caleb, I'll invite you to the podium, and then if you would begin with your name and address for the record when you're ready and up there. And if you hear Vice President St. Hilaire's timer go off, if you would just draw your remarks to a close, we do that just to make sure all speakers get the same amount of time. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Hello, my name is Caleb McCauley. I live at 3 Henderson Avenue. Today, I am here to talk about 4 hard truths. The first 2 are things I actually agree with the mayor on. The first hard truth is we have a trash problem, both in consumption and where it goes. The second hard truth is the cost around that trash problem has risen exponentially. I think those 2 hard truths are things we can all agree on. Now, the third and fourth are still up for debate, so I'm actually going to ask them as questions. The third, is this contract right for Beverly and its residents? I don't think we know that yet. Should we have started this process earlier? Could we have increased the $100 fee over the last few years so there was money put aside so when the new trash contract happened, there was money to help others? I could go on, but I'm hoping the mayor and his team thought of all this. What I can say confidently is, if we had started this process earlier, there would have been more time to brainstorm and be transparent. Instead, we are at the end of a 5-year contract. Now, the fourth truth is, do we have a failure in leadership? Now, I do not say that lightly, but what I will say is, what a missed opportunity for the mayor after a hard-fought re-election win and a trash strike that really affected Beverly. He and his team could have put together a Prop 2.5 launch campaign and connecting funding towards a new future contract that would have lessened the impact on residents paired with an increase in school funding. We could have had the citizens of Beverly vote on this and choose what they actually believe in as a community. Instead, we get neither, and less funding for the schools, and we have to pay more and get less for our trash. To finish, my wife and I moved to Beverly almost 14 years ago. We found a short sale. It was a cute little cape with a nice backyard. We knew nothing about this area. Over the years, we fell in love with this community. We had 2 beautiful children. I knew this was the right community to raise them. Over the last few years, I've questioned that more and more. And today, I stand up here in front of you, and I don't know if Beverly is the right place for my family anymore. I am still willing to fight, as many others in this community. I am not leaving, and so many want to fight as well, but we all need your help. In closing, please do not let our children suffer because of mismanagement and trash inflation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. McCauley, for being here with us this evening. Our second speaker signed up this evening is Erin Altman, who I see is already making her way to the podium. Ms. Altman, if you also would begin with your name and address for the record, and then if you hear Vice President St. Hilaire's timer go off, if you also would draw your remarks to a close at that point. Thank you.
Thank you. Just starting out, I have tremendous respect for each and every one of you up there. Thank you so much for your service to the city of Beverly. I know you're not doing it for fun, so. The voters made their priorities clear last fall. They want the city to find creative solutions to close the funding gap and fully fund our schools. I believe approving the new trash fee is one of those solutions. I understand many residents have concerns about the new system, and I have questions about implementation as well. But we also have to recognize that the city has subsidized trash collection for years, and we can no longer afford to fund unlimited waste at the city's expense. As councilors, you are responsible not only for protecting residents' wallets, but also for protecting the city's financial future. I also think it's important to acknowledge that many councilors learned details about this contract at the same time as the public did, making it difficult to immediately answer questions and concerns. Accusations that city leaders do not care about residents are unfair and unproductive. For many households, the smaller barrel is manageable. As a family of 5, we do not fill a full barrel each week. In addition, the city's waste reduction committee and local nonprofits can help educate and support residents through the transition. Finally, Massachusetts is running out of landfill space. We are paying other states to take our trash along with rising transportation costs. Continuing the current system is not financially or environmentally sustainable. I believe a vote for the trash fee is a vote for our teachers, our schools, and the city's long-term stability. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Altman. And if you would you just go to the podium, just remind us your address. Name and address for the record.
Only compostable toilet paper, please, of my address, 6 Iverson. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Councillor Spang pointed out that I was not unmuted, so for folks on BevCam, I just asked our speaker to just go back and state her name and address for the record. Thank you. And thank you, Councillor Spang and Kim, for alerting us. Thank you to both our public speakers for signing up, for being here with us this evening. And of course, you're welcome to remain with us for as much of the meeting as you like, but also, and this is true for anybody in attendance, if there's a point at which you need to step out, you can do that. You don't have to wait for a recess. You can come and go as you need. We do have time before our posted public hearing, which is posted for 7:45. And if there are folks here hoping to speak in the public hearing this evening, this is a public hearing on the Community Preservation Committee's 13th round CPA project funding recommendations. There's a sign-up sheet on the table over by the window at that entrance to the council chamber. You can get up at any point and add your name, and we'll take public speakers in that public hearing in the order they are signed up. And again, that's only public comment for that particular public hearing on the CPA funding recommendations. Let's go to acceptance of minutes of previous meetings. We do have one set of meeting minutes that we can approve this evening, councilors, and that is the set of minutes from our Legal Affairs Committee meeting from March 2nd, 2026. Is there a motion to approve this set of minutes? All those in favor? Aye. That carries 9-0, and those are approved. Ms. Kent, let's go to communications from His Honor the Mayor, please.
Order number 138, a transfer request of $2,400,000 from the city's certified free cash balance to be placed into the city's road and sidewalk capital fund to support paving work for FY27.
Please refer that to the Committee on Finance and Property to set a public hearing.
Order number 139, a transfer of $209,923 representing 2% of the city's certified free cash balance to be placed in the OPEB trust.
Please refer that to the Committee on Finance and Property to set a public hearing.
Order number 140, a transfer of $1,179,728 from the city's certified free cash balance to be placed into the snow and ice budget to cover costs incurred during the past winter snowstorms.
Please also refer that to the Committee on Finance and Property also to set a public hearing.
Order number 141, a request to transfer $1,600,000 from the city's certified free cash balance to purchase, assemble, and deliver new trash carts to Beverly residents to prepare for the fully automated trash and recycling collection contract that begins on July 1st.
Please refer that to the Committee on Finance and Property also to set a public hearing.
Order number 142, amending a Beverly ordinance, section 244-15, 244-16, and 244-17, trash removal and disposal fees, increasing fees, and modernizing language.
Please refer that to the Committee on Legal Affairs.
Order number 143, a $300 donation from Beverly resident Edward A. King Jr. to benefit the senior center.
Please refer that to the Committee on Finance and Property.
Order 144, a $500 donation from the Prosthetic Associates, Inc. for the Beverly Fire Department to fund the purchase of EMS supplies.
We'll refer that to the Committee on Finance and Property, Ms. Kent, and I see Councilor St. Hilaire has his hand up. So Councilor, yes.
Thank you, Madam President. Just regarding Order 142 related to the trash fee ordinance change, I know a lot of folks here tonight are interested in that topic. Do you contemplate any opportunity for public input as we go through this process, and when could residents expect that opportunity to do that?
Thank you, Councilor. So that will go to the Committee on Legal Affairs this evening, and if it's referred back to the full council, then we'll have discussion among councilors this evening. This takes 2 votes, as folks may know. It's an ordinance change. And so at the next meeting, when we have the opportunity to discuss it for a second conversation and vote, then I would open the floor for some public comment at that point. It's,
Okay.
sorry, and what I was going to say is, and what happens in legal affairs will help to inform when that next meeting would be, and we can certainly announce that this evening.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor. Ms. Kent, let's pick up at 145, if you would.
Order number 145, an $8,000, $15 gift from the University of Massachusetts Lowell Partnership, which is funded by the Massachusetts Broadband Institute at the Mass Tech Collaborative to benefit the Beverly Public Library.
Please refer that to the Committee on Finance and Property.
Order number 46 is a duplicate appointment. It's actually in Public Services as we speak.
Thank you, Ms.
You're
Kent.
welcome.
So that will be reported out already this evening.
Correct. Order number 147, an appointment for Michael Vigoretto for 5 Adelaide Road to serve on the planning board.
Please refer that to the Committee on Legal Affairs.
Order number 148, a declare 119 Livingstone Avenue available for disposition.
Please refer that to the Committee on Legal Affairs. Let's go to communications from other city officers and boards, please, Ms. Kent.
Order number 149 from Dr. Peter Cushing, Superintendent of the Schools, permission to enter into a lease transaction with Apple for student laptops for the one-to-one laptop initiative at Beverly High School.
Please refer that to the Committee on Finance and Property.
Order number 150 from the city clerk, a new application for a taxi livery license for Bass River Day Activity Program, Inc., DBA Bass River, Inc.
Please refer that to the Committee on Legal Affairs. We do have some unfinished business from a previous meeting. The first is Order 61, and we're continuing to hold that there so that we can schedule this meeting with Mayor Cahill and his team talking about plans for Camp Paradise. And then Order 127, this is the order from Councilor Rotundo, initiating a process for the naming of the road leading into Beverly Golf and Tennis as Met Ziegler Way. And this is held here because it's part of the public process for the naming of city property, and there will be a public hearing for that purpose on June 1st at our regular meeting, and that is at 7:30 p.m. for those who may wish to comment. Councilor Rotundo, did I miss anything on that order? That's your order. Okay. Thank you. And finally, we do have one item under motions and orders right now. That is Order 119, proposed amendments to the Beverly Zoning Ordinance Accessory Dwelling Unit Ordinance. And that is currently being held here as we're waiting for the Planning Board's recommendations after their portion of that public hearing. So we'll take further action on that, councilors, when we hear from them. So with that, we have about 5 minutes before our public hearing begins. And I am aware that it's very warm in here. So I would entertain a motion just for a 5-minute recess if folks need to sign up to speak in the public hearing, or if anyone would like to step out and get water or be able to use the restroom. So 5-minute recess. All those in favor? Thank you very much. We'll be back at 7:45 and we'll begin that public hearing. Thank you, everyone. Call the full council back to order at the end of that recess. And it is time for us to get to our public hearing. As I mentioned, we have a 7:45 public hearing posted on order number 133. And before I ask Ms. Kent to read that order, and we'll officially open the hearing, I will mention that there is a sign-up sheet for public comment on the table over by this window to my right, your left if you're sitting in the chamber. And if you wish to speak in this public hearing on the CPA project funding recommendations, if you just add your name, then we will take public comment in the order that speakers are signed up. Ms. Kent, let's officially open our public hearing on order 133, and we'll go to you for that order.
City of Beverly ordered that the City Council of the City of Beverly hold a public hearing on Monday, May 18, 2026 at 7:45 p.m. at 191 Cabot Street, 3rd floor, Council Chambers, relative to the Community Preservation Committee's 13th round CPA project funding recommendations. And this was published in the newspaper on May 8th, 2026.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kent. We do have Derek Beckwith from our Community Preservation Committee here with us this evening, as well as Jean Dilios, who is here as well. Thank you both for being here. Mr. Beckwith, I know you're making your way to the podium, so we'll turn things over to you. And I hope it's okay to share, Mr. Beckwith, to share, I think this is his last presentation to us in this role. So it's a swan song of sorts, and we will miss you. But we're glad to have this time to be able to hear your presentation and the work that the committee has done to put together this 13th round project funding recommendation list. So I'll turn things over to you with thanks.
Thank you very, very much, President Flowers. Members of the council, it's an honor to be with you again. And I so want to thank you and everyone here for this opportunity. And I'll try, we have 8 different projects that we're recommending for funding tonight. And I also want to step back and give you an idea of where we are budget-wise as well. This is an important year, especially for budget clearance, clarity and transparency. So I'm going to take a couple minutes to do that as well. I'm very proud to be the chair of the CPC. However, the tireless, endless work goes on and on and on and on in determining which projects to fund. In part, it's the members of the board. So I just want to recognize Vice Chair Wendy Pearl and our members, Robert Buxbaum, Christy Edwards, David Urshan, Jamie Jameson, Nancy Marino, and Heather Richter for all of their tireless dedication, and it's been an honor to serve with them. Additionally, Jean Dilios, our CPA coordinator, is so invaluable to us. It's wonderful. This is your second or third? Second. I don't know how we got along without her. So anyway. And we consulted and talked through with members of city government when we were looking and evaluating in projects from the planning department, Darlene Wynn in particular, the finance department. Bryant Ailes has been very, very insightful and helpful in maintaining all the budget numbers and managing the funds. The city solicitor's office, Beth Oldmixon, again, incredible resource. Bruce Doig, the Director of Parks and Rec and Community Services, City Engineer Lisa Chandler, the public, the fire department, counselors, legislators, and a range of community organizations. I think we're a very active CPA community. There are hundreds around the state, but we're really cooking with gas, as they say, even though I guess gas isn't in vogue, but anyway. So this year we had 9 different organizations come to us with pre-applications and that we looked at and said deserved or not deserved funding, but were eligible for funding under the criteria of the CPA. And we invited them all to offer and provide full applications. 8 of those organizations and individuals submitted full applications, 3 in the recreation category, 2 in the community housing category, 3 in historic resources, for a total request ultimately of $1.8 million plus dollars. After a review and evaluation process, we're recommending funding for the 8 projects totaling $1,795,866 from CPA funds. All of these funds will be guided, if you deem them worthy of funding, as you're the ultimate authority in this, then they will be guided and directed by memorandums of agreement, MOA. Wait a second, hold on, where did I go? Memorandums of understanding, MOUs, that will delineate timelines, the amount of monies allowed to be spent, et cetera, and the process. So that's basically where we are with the overview before you. This year, however, was different from any of the other 8 years that I've been on the CPC, and that is because we faced a shortfall, actually, because initially we had applications, the 8 applications that came before us exceeded the money that was available. And that's because in page 10 of your packet, you don't have to follow along, I'll give you the numbers here. We showed, and we have right now, a balance of $2,938,525.98 available for funding. However, they have to be funded by category. We don't have any open space category projects this year, which means that $529,998.58 is off the table. That can't be spent, can't be touched, except for an open space project. So in reality, we only had available $2.4 million. And the requests that came to us were about $2.7 million. We had a shortfall of $289,000. So we did what you're doing and what everyone is doing these days, and that is we sharpened the pencils and we went to work and we talked with each of the applicants as they came before us and explained that it was a very tight year. And we asked them to take a look at what could be done, if anything could be done, to, handle the budget requests that they were making of the city. In that, and some projects are what they are. For example, a recreation project to do a park and redo a basketball court, the costs are pretty much fixed. I mean, they are what they are. There's not a lot of room. However, there were 2 applicants in particular that we wanted to call out and let people know that they did some extraordinary work to lower those costs of their applications. The first was the Beverly Housing Authority. Their Garden City Towers project, when it first came to us, it's our largest project of the year that we're recommending, was for a CPA grant of $1,303,529. And so they heard our message, and they also heard, I also have to give the mayor credit here too, because the mayor came to a couple of our meetings and expressed the need to try to have some sort of a reserve for later on in the year for out-of-cycle projects, not to use all of the money available right now, if there any way that we could have some money left over, because, there could be some extraordinary projects or needs come forward during the course of the year. We agreed with that as well. So Garden City Towers project is for a fire protection sprinkler system for that. Those are very pricey projects. And what the team at the Beverly Housing Authority did was they fast-tracked the selection of a design and engineering firm with deep experience in these, and to examine the numbers and look at what their initial numbers were that they had in place as of the end of the year for their application. And they brought in a team that does have deep experience, and they found a way, and because of their knowledge of the projects, to reduce their request by $477,884, which is pretty substantial. And so that immediately moved us from being in a deficit situation to having a little bit. Another applicant, and that is the proponents of the Central Cemetery, two projects attached to this we'll talk about. One is for the Central Cemetery fence and gates project to renew them. They're in horrible disrepair and have been for years, and to renew those, and also to save the tomb house, also known as the dead house, believe it or not, which I'll get into in a second. And they went back and they rephased the project so that this year's expenditure would be less. They found a way and to look at doing it a little bit differently than they first imagined, and to take the budget situation into account. And they came in and they were just shy of $300,000. Okay, so the bottom line from those two projects is that we now, if you were to approve the recommendations that we're putting forward to you tonight, we would have still a balance of $612,661 rather than zero for out-of-cycle or other needs that could come up in anything but open space areas. So that's a highlight of one of the accomplishments I think that our applicants, working in tandem with the committee, were able to accomplish this year. And with that, I just want to give a quick overview of the different projects. We have 3 recreation projects. They're all similar. We have the Gillis Park Basketball Court Replacement Project, and this is for $130,155. It's for the basketball court itself. It's no other park equipment or anything like that involved in it, and that's why it comes in less than the other projects that I'll mention. It's a complete refacing of the basketball courts. It's actually building slightly smaller courts, not NBA size, but a little bit smaller, which is more popular these days. And also, when they're resurfaced and painted, they'll have other markings for other activities on them as well. And they'll have player benches, poles, backboards, hoops. They'll meet ADA standards, so that's a project that the committee recommends. This is located in Ward 2 Goat Hill neighborhood, and that's a census block group that meets the state's definition of an environmental justice population. So that's an important piece there. Next is the Ahern Park Goldway Playground renovation project. This is a wider project. It also includes basketball court rehabilitation that's nearly identical to the Gillis Park court replacement. It's important to note that these things they last about 20 years, 25 years, and then they go. And, they're nearly unplayable. So, and the project includes, in addition to the basketball court replacement, playground equipment, and new benches throughout the park, and a new ADA-compliant spinner to enhance unified play at the park as well. The project is also located in the Ward 2 downtown neighborhood in a census block group that meets the state's definition of an environmental justice population. The third recreation project is the Gilbert Park Bartlett Gardens renovation project. That's for $240,000. Much of the same elements for the as the others in terms of basketball court, playground equipment, et cetera, to rejuvenate and renovate that park as well. So the committee wholeheartedly recommends those. Next, we move on to our 2 housing projects. The first one is, oh, my papers are out of line. There we go. The Garden City Towers Fire Protection Sprinkler Installation Project, which I talked about briefly before. And that project comes in with a request for $825,645 to fund the comprehensive fire suppression, smoke detection project at the Garden City Towers location, where there are 100 units and 137 residents. Some of the most economically challenged residents we have in the city. Many of these 137 residents have lived in Beverly for nearly or all of their lives. It's a population in vital need. It's a building in vital need of this work. And the CPA guidelines specifically call out through an interpretation and memo from the Department of Revenue on what housing authorities can apply to CPA organizations for. It calls out being able to apply for and receive funding for fire suppression systems like this. I could go into, this in detail. 886,000 square feet, 7 stories, limited ability to be able to get immediate fire, water to different areas, that sort of thing. But nothing really set it and put it into specific relief, as much as the letter that was sent by the fire chief, Peter O'Connor, on October 22nd, 2025, to Bruce McCarrier, the executive director of the Beverly Housing Authority. I'll just quickly read the first two. I'm writing to you to express concern about the lack of an automatic sprinkler system at your Garden City Towers property located at 20 Sawyer Road in Beverly. This property was one that was identified by our department as a target hazard because of its size, population, and the inherent challenges associated with quickly getting water on a fire in its incipient stages. Our concern for the risk of fire and fire-related harm is multifaceted. First, the building houses older adults who are more susceptible to harm and fires. Second, modern contents pose a far more significant hazard than legacy contents did. Fuels like couches, clothing, and electronics burn hotter and faster. At the same time, byproducts of combustion are far more prevalent and toxic. Third, the time it would take to respond and deploy hoses to a fire in that building far exceeds the immediate application of water from an installed and maintained sprinkler system. This was sent just months after the July 2025 Fall River fire at the assisted living facility, Gabriel House, 100-unit complex, only 3 stories tall, I believe, where 10 residents perished. So that alone, it was a unanimous vote by the board, by the committee. And the next is a recommendation to provide what we're calling support CPA eligible community housing project. Basically, the Affordable Housing Trust in Beverly has limited resources since there was a shift in funding mechanisms for the Affordable Housing Trust. It's a city organization. The ability for developers to pay in lieu of when they're building projects and not giving them the capability to do that meant that the funding has become very scarce for the Affordable Housing Trust. We're looking for funding, and we're recommending $60,003. It's an odd number, but it's there's a reason behind it. It's $64,004, sorry. It's half of what the state mandates the city to spend on affordable housing through their CPA funds. Last year, we did something similar, and the Affordable Housing Trust was able to use that money together with some of their own funds to extend the affordable housing certification or deed restrictions for Turtle Creek area to ensure that 67 housing units will be affordable for the next 30 years. Pretty good investment for that, so we recommend that.
Madam President, I need to step out for the next two applications.
Thank you, Counselor. So Counselor Husman is recusing himself for the next two, so he will also not be voting on the next
While he's
two.
stepping out, I want to apologize for not mentioning Bruce Doig during the discussion on recreation because he was invaluable. So that gave me time to remember that. So thank you. We have three historic preservation recommendations for you. The first two, the Central Cemetery Tomb House and the Central Cemetery Fence and Gates Program, are ones that two individuals were very involved in. It's a they're both City of Beverly projects. They come under the city title, but the people who moved them forward were Councilor Husman, who just left the room, and Lisa Chandler, the city engineer, who really teamed up to work on what it would take for both of these and to do the work and pulling together the numbers and everything and the strategy, and then put their heads together, as I talked about before, in terms of what to do about the funding shortfall or tight budget that the CPC was facing in making decisions. And so they were at virtually every meeting. We even had a call with Councilor Houseman when he was overseas because he called into the meeting to participate and be part of it. So anyway, the Tomb House project is it's in disrepair. This is part of the Central Cemetery, which is both a high-profile and time-worn historic property in need of attention, and has been for a long time. It's 43 acres. People drive by it. Hundreds of people drive by it every day, thousands every day. It was founded in 1790, qualifies for listing in the National Register of Historic Places, and was deemed historically significant by the Beverly Historic District Commission earlier this year, actually. They'd never been asked to, but when they were, they immediately said yes. The Tomb House, a dead house, was constructed during the late 19th century, so in 1891, to serve the function that in the winter, when people passed away, there was some place they could be, and so it actually is. I'm going a little bit longer than I should. I'll be quick. It's a valuable resource. Liken it to the Powder House Project. If you remember the Powder House Project years ago, it's a one-of-a-kind historic item that we need to save, or we feel we need to save. And the $23,390 is to get the design work, to get the analysis, what has to be done to it. So it's phase one. Phase two would be either later on this year in an out of cycle or next year during the round. And that would, we'd only be guessing at the price, but in and around the $200,000 mark or something like that, to save that from failing. The city has already come in to do triage on it and put support beams and a fence around it to help make sure that it doesn't deteriorate any further right now. But we're hoping to be able to move that forward with your support. The cemetery fences and gates project is similar to the Beverly Farms cemetery project, except about 10 times in scale. And so this would be phase one, half of Bisson Street, the most visible area of the fencing and the area that's also in most disrepair. And so that would be funded for $237,000. And the final project is for the Garden School. It's an outbuilding roof replacement. The Garden School is a nonprofit organization in town. Many of you may know it from its formerly known as the Laura Schumann Memorial Camp and Camp Mitchman. So that property, which has been deemed historically significant and was so by the Beverly Historic Districts Commission in February of 2016, has an outbuilding called the Historic Longhouse, and the roof is failing, and failure to fix the roof is would cause catastrophic results for that. So that's that's it. It's only a $25,000 piece. We love supporting nonprofit organizations in the city. We've supported the Cabot. We've supported the Larkham. This is now supporting yet another nonprofit, smaller and less known, but also important. And with that, they'd be held to requirements to follow Secretary of Interior standards. They'd be consulting with the Historic Districts Commission. And like the Cabot and Larkham, the city taxpayers would be protected because we'd have a clawback that if the property were to be sold, unlikely, that the money would come back to us in increments. And that is it. I apologize for the length.
Thank you, Mr. Beckwith, and thank you for the very thorough presentation. It's very helpful always to have you be able to enumerate what those different projects are and the process that the committee has gone through, so we thank you for that. Councilors, are there any questions or comments for Mr. Beckwith at this point? Councilor Crowley.
The only question that I have is, I know you talked about the change for the apartments and stuff as far as the sprinkler system, where they came back with a significant less from before. Has that been run through the fire chief to make sure it's still going to provide the safety and stuff that they're going to need for that building?
Oh, that it will be, but you know, I think it's in the design phase right now. The bidding for the project hasn't happened, that sort of thing. But I understanding that the fire chief, you know, is in contact and communication with them. I expect that either has or will be happening.
Okay,
so
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilor. Are there other questions or comments from members of the council following that presentation? Okay. There are no members of the public signed up to speak in the public hearing, but were there members of the public here this evening hoping to speak in this public hearing on these proposed project funding recommendations that we heard? Okay. Seeing none, I'll close this public hearing with our thanks to you, Mr. Beckwith, in your work as chair, and certainly to all the members of the committee. Thank you also to Jean Delios for being here and for your work as well. We'll refer that back to the Committee on Finance and Property for further action this evening. Thank you. So with that, councilors, that brings us to an opportunity to do some subcommittee work. So I would entertain a motion for a brief break for subcommittee time. All those in favor? That carries 9-0, so we'll take that break for some subcommittee work. Let's have legal affairs stay here in council chambers, please. Public services in the committee room, finance and property in the hall. Thank you.
Microphone.
Sorry, Kim, my apologies on that. Order number 59, Council St. Hilaire, a request that the Parking and Traffic Commission review removal of a crosswalk at the intersection of Hale Street and Juniper Street in Beverly Farms. Any questions? Please, Mr. Sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment and thank the Parking and Traffic Commission. They reviewed my request and recommended that we do reinstall the crosswalk at Juniper and Hale Street in Beverly Farms. This was a crosswalk that was removed as part of a paving project last year, and a lot of residents were upset with that decision, so we had a good discussion at Parking and Traffic, and I'm excited to have that back. So I want to thank Chairman Benevento and the commission.
Fantastic. Councilor Crowley, any questions? Or
No
concerns?
questions here.
With that, I ask for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Order 59 carries 3-0. Order number 60, Council St. Hilaire, a request that the Parking and Traffic Commission review the traffic signage posted on Common Lane. Again,
Yeah, just again, a thank you to the Parking and Traffic Commission. This is a similar issue. Common Lane was paved last year for the first time in a real long time. With that, we've seen some increases in vehicle speeds and a need for additional public safety measures. We've been talking about a sidewalk on Common Lane for a long time. That's something the mayor is aware of and is on his radar. And this was a recommendation from the Parking and Traffic Commission to install that sidewalk and to look at potential signage that we could add to Common Lane. So appreciate their support there.
thank you. Any questions, Councilor?
No questions or anything on my end.
With that, motion,
Motion to approve.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion 60 carries 3-0. I'm going to hold order number 120, which is in regards to the second half of the meeting on the automated license plate readers, so that's going to be held. I'm also going to hold order number 148, which is to declare 119 Livingstone Ave available for dispositions. Ms. Old Nixon or Mr. Dole, any, in regards to holding, there wasn't a time sensitive on this particular disposition for the land at Livingstone. It just gives opportunity. I know I haven't had a chance to really dive into or ask questions of you, but is this a time sensitive manner?
There's nothing time sensitive about it, except the longer it sits here, the
Okay.
longer it gets
So
delayed.
I'm
But
gonna
there's no
hold-
deadline.
Okay, that's why I let you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hold this order at least till maybe the Tuesday meeting, so it would give us to the next meeting, give us an opportunity to look into a little bit. It is in my ward. I'm aware of it. I just want to make sure that we've, dotted the i's and crossed the t's. So order 148, we're going to hold. Let's do order 150. It's to whom it was referred the matter, new application for a taxi livery license for Bass River Day Activity Program, Inc., DBA Bass River, Inc. We've had these numerous times. It seems it's a new application, added license. I'm assuming everything was in order, correct? As usual, I know you guys are going to do it. Any questions, Councilor?
Nope.
No
Councilor
questions here.
Crowley?
Nope.
With that, I motion for, sorry, yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I was watching you on TV. Your question about time sensitivity on the 119 Livingstone parcel,
Yes.
the sooner that you folks take action, if in fact you approve, the sooner we can go out to auction
Yep.
and derive revenues that the taxpayers can benefit from.
Okay, I appreciate that. I just know with everything going with the trash fee and stuff, we've been kind of inundated with that. I haven't had a chance to really go through it. It isn't, I know exactly the property. I'm
Yeah, and we
aware of
talked about it last
I
week.
just want to kind of give a chance to make sure I just touch base quickly with Ms. Old Nixon and Mr. Dole. Thank you. Again, order 150, there's a motion to accept.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 130. Order 142, which is what we've been kind of waiting for. Oh, thank you. I am calling Committee of the Whole. I appreciate it, Mr. Mulady, Councilor Mulady, Sonia, and Spang. Order 152, which is the amending Beverly Ordinance 244-15, 244-16, and 244-17 trash removal and disposal fees, increasing fees and modernizing language. Council St. Hilaire, I'm going to open the floor up to you to begin with.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, it's probably not a surprise. I'm 100% opposed to increasing the trash fee at all. I feel it's been a rushed timeline. I feel like there's been a lack of transparency on this and frankly, a lack of respect shown to the city council and to the residents we serve. This is a major change to our city, to the day-to-day lives of our residents. The meeting in Ward 6 for the residents I represent is May 28th, yet here we are talking about this today. They're finding out through my Facebook posts about what the program is going to consist of. Lots of questions about the logistics. This could have benefited from a lot more vetting. With that said, the contract is signed and we're in play. But I think, regarding the funding mechanism, I mean, affordability is the number one issue in our community. We've got rising costs all over the place, whether it be gas, utilities, childcare, healthcare, groceries, housing. People are struggling to make ends meet, and this is a big increase. And, I think we need to take that into account. I think this is a little tone deaf to quadruple the trash fee when folks are struggling like this. This is going to impact every single homeowner and every single renter in our community. And I think we haven't done our due diligence on the budget. I think we're spending more than we're taking in. It's unsustainable. It's clear that this is a move to balance the budget this year. But the mayor's made it clear that this is the last move, that we're out of moves. And to me, that signals that we're looking at an override next year. I don't think that's right. Here we are in City Hall, the City Hall project that we approved in January. I think that was ill-timed. I think, again, that's $2 million in our budget coming up this year. That could have been used to offset this trash program, and we wouldn't have had to raise the rates as high as we're considering. And we haven't done the due diligence on the budget. The mayor's added a lot of positions in the mayor's office. He's traveling across the country, going to conferences. We've got budget issues, and we're spending too much, and I think we need to make some cuts. And I'm not willing to support this until I've seen the budget and understand what those cuts look like. The residents we serve, they're going to pay the cost of this. And we need to do our, sharpen our pencils was something Mr. Beckwith mentioned. We need to send this back, let the mayor sharpen his pencils, and come back with a better proposal for our community. That's my position. I'm going to vote no on this. I don't think it should move out of committee, frankly.
Thank you. Do you have anything else?
So I, very much so, I've heard a lot from Ward 3 and the residents and the impacts that this is going to have. I do have concerns about the impact that it'll have on residents, not only on my ward, but through the city of Beverly. Particularly in my ward, we have, a large number of low-income seniors, families living income-based housing, housing authority properties, home 90% and sitting in Ward 3. Same thing with YMCA housing and other residents living on fixed incomes. For many households, this is not a modest adjustment. It's a dramatic increase in the cost of living at a time when residents are already struggling with rising rents, groceries, medications, and utility bills. Many of the residents I represent live in an environmental justice community that already experience disproportionate economic and health burdens. These are neighborhoods where families are working hard to just, remain stable. The reality is there's no simple room in many of the residents in this area's personal budgets for an increase this size. Many seniors, low-income families are already stretched to their limit after paying for housing, food, medicine, utilities, transportation. There's little or nothing left over. An additional $325 annually may not seem significant to some, but for many residents, it's simply unaffordable. I understand the needs and the financial pressures facing the city. I recognize the importance of maintaining essential services. We also have a responsibility to look in-house, remain physically responsible, examine all available options before placing this kind of a burden on residents. We can't continually balancing the financial challenges on the backs of the very people who are struggling the most. A more than 300% increase is simply too much, too fast. I think instead we should explore some equitable alternatives. If we have to do some sort of an increase, potentially let's explore a significantly phased-in increase, some relief or exemptions for seniors, disabled residents, greater internal cost-saving measures, additional public engagement before moving forward with any proposal of this scale. We have a responsibility to protect vulnerable residents, ensure the basic services. For that reason, I can't support the proposed increase as presented, but I still feel we should come out of committee and bring it back to the whole as far as council goes. That's where I stand.
All right, thank you. So, interestingly, I agree with both of what you're both saying. It is a significant increase. There is a lot of unknowns that we don't have with the balance of the budget. I also understand that 425 is really, is really a high cost to be paid to our citizens, but also our residents. But I also know that in our finance forecasting back in December of 2025, it was clearly stated there that there would be consideration of an increase in trash fee, as well as attrition and as well as layoffs. I know I've also heard numbers in that. We heard 3.9, 4.2 million. It all came at different prices. I also know that if we are not to increase the fee at all, that we would be looking at roughly about 54 layoffs. Now, I know there is some sharpening of the pencil. I don't disagree with you at all. I also feel that maybe to speak to Councilor Crowley, the 425 is significant, and is there consideration to do a step up over the next few years, or as well as amending this particular proposal? I would like to push it out of committee to bring it to the committee of the whole, specifically if we are to hold a Tuesday night meeting, and Councilor President Flowers had stated that there would be some opportunity for the residents to speak. Councilor St. Hilaire, I agree that it puts you at a disadvantage. I was one of the first to have the presentation, and unfortunately, I was as well taken aback. I was seeing the information at the same exact time as the people in the at the school. But I do also feel that it is prudent that we at least give the administration an idea of where we're going to lay, whether that be 425, 300, 250, or none at all. I think this would be, in my opinion, the best if we were to vote it out of this subcommittee to the committee of the whole and allow for some more engaging conversation amongst our colleagues on Tuesday night. Bless you. With that said, I would like to make an amendment to the existing proposal of the increase from the existing 425 and 280 to be at 210 and 300. Is there a second for that?
I would second it to move it out of committee.
Okay. Do I have a vote? All in favor? Carries 2-0.
2-1.
2-1, I'm sorry, Matt. So this is going to move out to that. I think that is it for our agenda at this point. We will call committee of the whole to adjourn at 8:30.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Legal affairs?
So moved.
Second, all those in
Second.
favor? 3-0, thank you. So we're gonna this is just gonna be.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, everyone. Call the full council back to order following that subcommittee work with our thanks to the subcommittee chairs and the subcommittees for the work undertaken during that time. And thanks, of course, to everyone who's joined us in the council chamber and who's with us this evening, members of the public, members of our city staff, and of course, Kim in the BevCam booth. Thank you for keeping us live and streaming. Ms. Kent, let's go to reports from committees if we could.
Order number 138, the Committee on Finance and Property, to whom referred the matter regarding a transfer request of $2,400,000 from the city's certified free cash to be placed into the city's Roads and Sidewalk Capital Fund. Have set a public hearing for June 1st at 7:45 p.m.
Councilors, I would entertain a motion to set that public hearing for June 1st at 7:45 p.m. as recommended by the subcommittee.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. That carries 9-0.
Order number 139, the Committee on Finance and Property, to whom referred the matter regarding a transfer of $209,923 representing 2% of the city's certified free cash balance to be placed in OPEB. Have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Set a public hearing on June 1st at 8 p.m.
I would entertain a motion to set that public hearing as recommended by the subcommittee, June 1st at 8 p.m.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. That carries 9-0.
Order 140, the Committee on Finance and Property, to whom referred the matter regarding a transfer of $1,179,728,000 from the city's certified free cash balance to be placed into the snow and ice budget. To set a public hearing June 1st at 8:15 p.m.
I would entertain a motion to set that public hearing as recommended by the subcommittee for June 1st at 8:15. Did you say, Ms. Kent?
8:15.
8:15 p.m. Second. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
That carries 9-0.
Order 141, the Committee on Finance and Property, whom referred the matter regarding a request to transfer $1,600,000 from the city's certified free cash balance to purchase, assemble, and deliver new trash carts to Beverly residents to prepare for the fully automated trash and recycling collection. Set a public hearing for June 1st, 8:30 p.m.
I would entertain a motion to set that public hearing as recommended by the subcommittee, June 1st, 8:30 p.m. Second. All those in favor? Aye. That carries 9-0. So we've just set a series of public hearings for our June 1st meeting. And of course, members of the public can join us and sign up to speak in any or all of those.
Order 143, the Committee on Finance and Property, to whom referred the matter regarding a $300 donation from Beverly resident Edward A. King Jr. to benefit the senior center. Have considered said matter and beg leave follows. Recommend the council approve this request.
Are there questions or comments? Question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and adoption of the order. All those in favor, aye. That carries 9-0 with our thanks to Mr. King for that gift for our senior center.
Order 144, the Committee on Finance and Property, to whom referred the matter regarding a $500 donation for the Beverly Fire Department to fund the purchase of EMS supplies. Have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the council approve this this donation.
Questions or comments? Question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and adoption of the order. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
That carries 9-0, and our thanks also to Prosthetic Associates, Inc. for that donation for our fire department.
Order 145, the Committee on Finance and Property, to whom referred the matter regarding a $8,015 gift from the University of Massachusetts Lowell Digital Equity Partnership, which is funded by the Mass Broadband Institute at the Mass Tech Collaborative to benefit the Beverly Public Library. Have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the council approve this request.
Questions or comments? Question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and adoption of the order. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
That carries 9-0, and our thanks to University of Massachusetts Lowell Digital Equity Partnership for that gift.
Order 149, the Committee on Finance and Property, to whom refer the matter regarding a permission to enter into a lease transaction with Apple for student laptops for the one-to-one laptop initiative at Beverly High School. Have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the council approve this request.
Questions or comments? Question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and adoption of the order. All those in favor, aye. Aye. That carries 9-0.
Order 133, the Committee on Finance and Property, to whom referred the matter regarding the Community Preservation Committee 13th round CPA project fund recommendations. Have considered said matter and beg leave to follow.
We voted each one separately for this so that Councilor Houseman could recuse himself.
I was going to say that Houseman recused on SBA-2 and SBA-3.
Yes,
Can he recuse?
Can I borrow your list? Yes, because he will recuse himself. Councilor Houseman, why don't I take those two at the beginning of the list? So if you'd like to step out for the two that you're recusing yourself for, it will mirror the order that the subcommittee also voted in. Counselors, I would entertain a motion to approve SPA 3. This is the Central Cemetery Fence and Gates Phase 1 Improvements Project.
So moved.
Is there any further discussion? Oh, Counselor Milady.
Sure. So I'm gonna not bury the lead and say,
Oh,
my microphone. Thanks, Danielle. So I'm gonna vote yes, but I just want to express some concerns that I have about this. The CPA was originally passed, I think it was 2001 by Governor Salucci, and the fund was purposely designed to augment rather than replace regular municipal spending. And my concern is that this project and some of the others that were presented were pieces of city property that had been in disrepair or neglect that occurred under the watch of the city. So as somebody who cares very much about history, I was a former trustee of Beverly Historic, actually spoke at some meetings for Historic Beverly to save some buildings downtown. I clearly made a difference because they're both knocked down. But that being said, listen, everyone can make a difference, but I just can't. That being said, I'm just worried that we're going down a slippery slope. The city had multiple years to address Central Cemetery. It is city property, and when it comes to the parks, again, multiple opportunities. So I'm going to vote yes on all of this. I just would like to see in the future that the city presents some item lines in their budget about preserving historic property without relying on the CPA funds. Thank you. I'll get off my soapbox.
thank you, Counselor Milady. Any other discussion on this one? All right, this is for SPA 3. This is Central Cemetery Fence and Gates Phase 1 Improvements. All those in favor?
Aye.
That carries 8-0. And then we'll take SPA 4, oh, I'm sorry. I'm not going to do that one. So we can bring Counselor Houseman back. SPA 2, this is Central Cemetery Tomb House Study and Preliminary Work. Is there a motion to approve that project?
So moved. Second.
Is there any further discussion on this one? Okay. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor? That carries 8-0 as well. Counselor Feldman, would you mind bringing Counselor Houseman back in? Thank you. Ms. Kent, I know I stole your piece of paper.
That's okay.
Okay, there, okay.
You were there.
Thank you, Counselor Houseman. Counselors will take the remaining projects one at a time. That is how the subcommittee also voted them out. So we'll now entertain a motion to approve R13-1. This is the Gillis Park Basketball Court Replacement Project for $130,155. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Any further discussion on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. That carries 9-0. Now we'll take R13-2. This is the Ahern Goldway Playground renovation for $250,000. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Is there any other discussion on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
That carries 9-0. Thank you. R13-3, this is the Gilbert Park Bartlett Gardens Playground renovation for $240,000. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Any further discussion on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
That carries 9-0. R13-4, this is the Beverly Housing Authority Garden City Towers Fire Protection Sprinkler System installation. And this is for $825,645. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
That carries 9-0. R13-5, this is the Affordable Housing Trust to support community housing projects that meet CPA criteria for $64,004. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Any further discussion on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
That carries 9-0. Then we've already done the next two that fell under historic preservation, leaving us with just one project remaining. This is SPA 4, the Garden School Roof, Outbuilding Roof Replacement for $25,672. Is there a motion to approve?
So second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
That carries 9-0. Thank you, Ms. Kent, for that. Thank you again, Mr. Beckwith, for your work as chair of that committee and for your work with us here this evening. Thank you, Ms. Delios, for being here as well.
Order number 132, the Committee on Public Services, to whom refer the matter regarding an appointment for Matthew Hergott, 140 Essex Street, to serve on the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. Have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the council approve this appointment.
Questions or comments? Question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and adoption of the order. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
That carries 9-0 with our thanks to Mr. Hergott for being willing to serve on that committee.
Order 59, the Legal Affairs, to whom refer the matter regarding a request from Parking and Traffic Commission review or model of a crosswalk at the intersection of Hale Street and Juniper and Beverly Farms. Had considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the council approve this request.
Are there questions or comments on this one? The question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and adoption of the order. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
That carries 9-0.
Order number 60, the Committee on Legal Affairs, to whom refer the matter regarding a request that the Parking and Traffic Commission review the traffic signage posted on Common Lane and have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the council approve this request.
Questions or comments on this one? Question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and adoption of the order. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
That carries 9-0.
Order number 150, the Committee on Legal Affairs, to whom refer the matter regarding a new application for a taxi livery license for Bass River Day Activity Program. DBA Bass River Inc. have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the license be granted.
Questions or comments on this one? Question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and adoption of the order. All those in favor, aye. That carries 9-0.
Order number 142, the Committee on Legal Affairs, to whom refer the matter amending Beverly Ordinances, Section 244-15, 244-16, 244-17, trash removal and disposal fees, increasing fees and modernizing language, have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the council approve this as amended from 425 to 300 and 280 to 210.
Thank you, Ms. Kent. So, councilors, this is a proposed ordinance change, so it is not available for a final vote this evening. It would be available for a first vote this evening after discussion, but in order to have discussion, we need a motion to approve at the amended rate. It was voted out of subcommittee as amended. You just heard Ms. Kent read. As amended to the two rates being $300 and the step down rate at $210. Councilor Rotundo.
Madam President, are we going to have a presentation on this right now from the administration, or are we going to take the vote first and then ask for them? Just for process purposes, my apologies.
No, it's a great question. Motion in a second so that we can have discussion. I would include in that the presentation, but that is a great question. Thank you.
Thank you. So I move the amendment.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. So thank you. So we have a motion and a second. I would like to allow time for, Councilor St. Hilaire.
Nope, finish your comments, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say time for discussion and questions from the council. I know the mayor is here with members of his team to answer some of those questions. And I know they have a presentation to be able to share with us to get that started as well. But Councilor St. Hilaire, I don't know if that anticipated your question or.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on the idea of public input on this process. I mean, this has been a very rushed process. This is a major program change. I really feel strongly we shouldn't take any vote until we get to hear from residents that we represent. And, you know, with that, I'd like to see the budget. And I don't know at what point we're going to see the proposed budget, but there are serious impacts in my mind in connection between the two. We passed the City Hall earlier this year. I think that should be on the table, and I guess that's my feeling.
Thank you, Councilor St. Hilaire. It feels like perhaps that opens the door to have a good segue, Mr. Mayor, to bring you and your team up. Some of those questions may be best directed to you or your team, and you may intend to present them to us, and then we'll go to further questions and conversation, councilors, at this point.
Thanks, Madam President. Maybe first, just a bit of framing. As we all know, during the fiscal forecasting process last November and December, one of the, I guess it was recommendations of the Financial Forecasting Committee was that trash fees be looked at with an expectation that they would likely need to be raised significantly. And I can tell you this, some of you have heard me say it, and I do want to point out for the public that my team and I have met with each of you individually over the last month on a combination of budget and the trash program. and fees, et cetera. And none of us met on the same day, so it was over a period of time. And we shared everything we could at any given time about where things are at with the process. We started this process, really started it during the trash strike last summer, in reaching out to and trying to get some better understanding from some of the other haulers, whether they could help us in that moment and whether they had an interest in our work going forward with the new contract coming up for this July 1. I then registered Commissioner Collins, Commissioner of DPS Collins, Purchasing Agent Dave Gelano, and myself to go to the U.S. Conference of Mayors annual Municipal Waste and Recycling Conference, which was held this past September in Burlington, Vermont. I ended up not being able to go because the strike was still going on, but Commissioner Collins and Mr. Gelano went with an eye towards figuring out just where things were in the industry and trying to get some actionable, helpful intelligence to bring back. And that really kicked off a process that we've worked on now for about half a year. And we've worked in close partnership with our volunteer waste reduction committee, residents and folks who, many of you know well and have worked with. And so there was a point where we knew we had to start the neighborhood meetings even as we were trying to nail down the final pieces of the contract. So we started the meetings, and some of you remember the first couple meetings I had to say, want to tell you who's going to be our hauler, but it's not finalized yet. And it was finalized a week ago Friday evening at 7:30 in the evening, and really great appreciation to our team for being, on that until it was finalized. And, so to start out, we asked every vendor in the industry in this region who was willing to come sit with us. We met with the owner of two of the incinerators, Win Waste, and we ended up going with them for the disposal of our trash because their pricing was significantly better than any of the haulers. So we had them, and we had five haulers meet with us. And we met extensively with those haulers, met, really 2-hour sessions with each of them, with a lot of questions for what they were seeing in the industry and what they were doing and how we were, where we should be heading. We then put together a very detailed request for expressions of interest, which is a public process, and public documents came our way as a result of that. And of the 5 haulers, 3 responded. And of the 3 who responded, 1 responded specifically. They responded both for what it would look like if they provided automated service and what it would look like if they provided a continuation of what we've been doing. And my PowerPoint is not up on the screen, so I can't point you to that, and I'd like to just for a minute. I will say, as this is City Engineer Lisa Chandler doubling as the IT department tonight. Thank you, Lisa. As she's putting that up, I do also want to say, and you councilors have heard me say this, and some members of the community have, I do not want to be bringing forward a fee increase. None of us do. I believe that it was my charge based on a really strong, fair argument that could be had about whether a service like trash and recycling should be based on who uses what and should pay for itself. And so that's what I brought forward. Obviously some of you have a thought to not go all the way there, and I understand and respect that. If you take that tack, there will be other impacts on what we have to spend and how we do that and what we spend on other things and where we make up that. Roughly, based on the numbers that you're proposing, we're looking at roughly $1.4 million that we would be short if you pass it in that fashion. So that, that would lead us to having to make some other decisions. But, okay, so I was explaining how the 3 haulers that responded Two responded solely with automated proposals. One responded with an automated and a continuation of what we do now. And if you look at that bottom bullet, the cost to remain non-automated was significantly higher. Over the course of 5 years, it was several $1 million higher. If you look at the proposed program cost of $5.46 million compared to, what it would have cost to go with the non-automated, 7.8, we might have been able to knock them down some from there, but they were so far beyond the automated bids of the other companies that was where we had to part company. We asked them a couple questions about, could they do better, but, and that's specifically that those trucks would have 3 people on them. The automated trucks would have 1. The math is fairly basic there. So going back to the top, the program cost in this current year, which includes the hauling, the disposal, and the charges for Stanley Street, and the charges to run the hazardous waste disposal day and the styrofoam day. They total about $3.9 million, and the proposal for next year will be about $5.46. That $5.46 is several $100,000 below where we were a month earlier with both of the remaining haulers. So I will tell you that the 2 haulers that it came down to is between Republic and Casella, and we ended up signing with Casella. They came in at about the same number. With Casella, these are rough numbers, but with Casella, there was about a $260,000 savings one time because the cost for the carts, purchase, assembly, distribution was going to be significantly lower. With Republic, there would have been about a $50,000 savings each year, so they kind of balanced out, about a $260,000 with either one. So other than that, the bids were really close in. We had a lot of information about Casella's record in their record of satisfaction in other communities, satisfaction with their, you just had the slide on, the call center slide. There we are. Yeah, I'm looking at that second bullet. Just a reference to call center, and I think we've had a lot of challenges with Republic on service. So anyway, we landed with Casella, I think, for a lot of reasons, and I think good reasons. Changes in the program that you've heard me talk about already. Bulk items. In Beverly, you've been able to put a bulk item out any week of the year and have them take it with your trash at no cost to you, but that has been paid for in the operating budget by the city. And when I say the city, I know it's all of our tax dollars. I'm not trying to say it's not, right? A fee is our customers' dollars, residents' dollars, and as our tax dollars through the operating budget. But bulk items and white goods, which you're used to needing to schedule for periodic pickup, they will both fall under that new category. They're both going to charge. There'll be price lists posted on our website. We negotiated those price lists with Casella for any given bulk item and any white good, and you'll need to sign up. I think you can see the bullet. You can call the call center. You can go on the app. You can go on the website. And when they first said there'll be an app, I thought, do we really download an app for trash and recycling? But once they walked us through all the ways that it can benefit us, it's an easy one. You'll probably want to download the app. Yard waste pickups in the spring and fall, and a Christmas tree 1 week pickup after the holidays will continue. We used to pick up 6 weeks in the spring and 6 in the fall. We've decided to cut the spring to 3. The volume is much lower in the spring. That is a cost-saving measure to offer 3 weeks. And in the fall, we've talked with them about pushing that calendar back later in the fall, since it seems to always finish too soon for people. And then the need for discontinuing overflow bags with going with automated pickup led to the overflow bags being discontinued in the proposal and in the contract. Lisa? Oh, if anybody believes that they might qualify on income level for either a hardship waiver for anyone, regardless of your age, or a senior discount based on your age and your income, you can, we have city ordinances that provide for that, and they're based on federal housing and urban development guidelines. We have a city ordinance where the numbers are outdated, and in our proposed change to that ordinance, it includes eliminating those outdated numbers and just referencing the HUD guidelines. So anybody who is concerned and thinks that they may qualify income-wise should really look to the QR code. That's on the website now, Lisa, yeah? And you can call my office, you can call engineering, or you can go right to the website to get information on that. Okay. Yep, we already went through all that. In the neighborhood meetings, we're talking through ways to try to help people put less in their trash. Whether it's people thinking that being concerned whether they can fit their trash in the 165 gallon and trying to use these ways to cut down, or people thinking they'd like to try the 35 gallon because of the lower fee that's proposed, and looking to divert in that way. We have a compost program with Black Earth, which is a company right next door in Manchester. And right now, about 1,500 residents are members of that program. Those of us who are, we pay $100 to Black Earth. They pick up our compost weekly, and the city gives us a $20 discount on the $100 trash fee because we've diverted at least 20% of our volume, tonnage of trash by keeping the food out of there. Textiles, you can go to any of our public schools, and there are a couple of other sites locally where there are textile bins, anything that qualifies, old sneakers, shoes, clothes, linens, things like that. And what anybody does who takes advantage of that, you generally keep a bag on your porch or wherever you have to keep it. And as things accumulate like that, you put them aside, and when you've got a bag full, you take it to the bin. Bay State, the company we work with on that, who has the contract, they provide money to our local school PTOs as a benefit as part of that contract based on the tonnage they take. And yard waste, I mean, you all know the program. Many of you bring your yard waste to Stanley Street on a regular basis. Some of you have yards where you can take care of it on your own. And as you know, and I just explained, we'll continue to have the spring and fall, late fall weeks for yard waste pickup. That it? And that's more detail on composting. You can leave it. Why don't you go to the? Oh yeah, stay there for just a minute. I'm sorry. There is a strong team of volunteers from a combination of the Waste Reduction Committee and from Green Beverly, our local environmental nonprofit, who have really become pretty expert in what can and cannot be recycled, how to best prepare materials for recycling, and they have a lot of understanding as well about how you might make some choices that bring less trash into your home to begin with, as well as they also can help with the composting questions. Anyone who's interested in trying to figure out whether they can generate less, divert more, whether it's to recycling or to composting, just call my office, email us, call us. We'll get you connected with some volunteers who can help you. A CHARM facility is an acronym for Center for Hard to Recycle Materials. Our goal is to set one up at Stanley Street. So you come into Stanley Street to bring yard waste, and you have some other things that are hard to recycle. We are going to initially set it up for the easy things that we know there's a market for, because we have to figure out there are some things that may be a little harder to get people to take, and we don't really have a budget for that right yet. But to start, we know that cardboard for some people will potentially be problematic. People who do a lot of online shopping or for other reasons have a lot of cardboard. You certainly can break the cardboard down and put it in the recycling bin that you'll be provided. But if you do enough cardboard, if enough cardboard comes through your house, you may want the option of bringing it to Stanley Street. So that's the first thing we'll set up. We'll try to get some of the textile bins out there as well. Yard waste you can already do. You can see the things at the bottom that are high priorities for us because scrap metal generally has a market, so we hope we'll be able to contract for that. Polystyrenes, and then something that is under the term universal waste, batteries of all different kinds and light bulbs. Generally, we're told we can't put them in our trash. So, people hang on to them if they're doing it right and try to find hazardous waste days. Our hope is to be able to begin to accept those materials at the Charm facility. But we'll keep everybody posted. Our hope is to get started before, too long after July 1. And we're working, been learning from a lot of communities that have had them up and running and established. And we're trying to make sure we, do it right and start with a few items and maybe build from there. Okay? And those will be items you can just bring and leave. And it'll be staffed anytime it's open. Questions on that? I think what I want to do in addition is touch on something that's been raised by a number of people, and Councilor St. Hilaire raised it tonight. People are looking for places to go instead of this proposed trash fee. And there's been a lot of attention focused on the City Hall project. I might ask some of my team to come elaborate on some of these things, but I just want to say to you, this council approved that full project budget earlier this year. That project is well underway. We'll be moving out of City Hall during the month of August. Construction will start in earnest September 1st. I want to reaffirm what we all know, because I strongly believe that you made a sound decision when you supported this project. This is a desperately needed project. City Hall was renovated in 1933 and 34 under a Depression-era work project administration grant. This building has a dire lack of meeting spaces, lack of bathrooms, lack of ADA compliance, American with Disability compliance throughout the building. The workspaces are horrifically insufficient. The HVAC system, the third floor HVAC system is pretty horrible, significantly substandard, needs replacement. We're in this room, and thankfully it's gotten a little cooler tonight, and there are fewer people in the room than at 7 o'clock, and all the windows have been open. But the AC doesn't work. On the first and second floors, there's no AC, and the HVAC is old and in need of replacement. The insulation in this building has been termed non-existent. So there's no energy efficiency benefit in this building, and that costs money. The electrical, the information technology, the plumbing, all substandard. The need for additional workspace for the health department that has been in the senior center maybe almost since it opened, and that senior center needs that space, and that's our fastest growing population in the city. The need for additional space, program space, gathering space, and space for delivering services in the senior center is significant. The building department is off-site. The retirement department is off-site, and they need to be brought back. A lot of reasons why the project needs to happen of its own merits. And then let me just turn to the question about the debt line. Now, some people say, hold off on the City Hall project or don't do it. Well, you who have been on the council long enough know that our debt service line was up around 8 or 9% when we put the middle school project through. And we had some concerns it might bump above 10%, but we get some very favorable borrowing rates. And that debt service line has now dwindled down to 5% of our operating budget. So what it means is this. In the mid-1990s, the city of Beverly looked around and realized that they hadn't done a good job for decades in caring for our infrastructure. We own about 20 buildings, and we've done a horrible job at that time. And so a decision was made that we had to do the 5 elementary schools, renovations, additions, a new elementary school, and then on to the high school, which was threatened with being unaccredited because of the facility problems there. New high school, I came into office working with many of you, a new middle school, a new police station. And now the next of the projects is this building. After this building, we're going to need to do roofs and HVAC systems for those 6 elementary schools. And that's going to be in the next 5 to 10 years. If we were to turn an about face and walk away from this project, what would be the goal of doing so? It sounds like it would be to take that money and spend it on recurring costs. And then it would go away. Because once something is in recurring costs, you're not going to be able to get it back for capital. And the best practices for municipalities is that you need to carry a line item that doesn't go away because your infrastructure, your capital assets need to be on a kind of a schedule and a rotation. And so we've done well up to now with that. The city of Beverly has never needed a debt exclusion for any of these projects. We don't need to look for one for this project, but if we collectively don't protect this 5%, which was at 7 and 8% just a few years ago, and maintain it at least 5% of our overall budget servicing debt, then in the future you could expect that capital projects wouldn't really be possible in the city without a debt exclusion every time. And a debt exclusion, for somebody who's not that familiar with that term, is a type of Proposition 2.5 override. So there are a lot of reasons for the City Hall project to be on track and for us to be doing it, and I'm grateful for the support this council has given. I just want to make sure that we all kind of think that one through. So I don't know if there are questions, but I certainly have plenty more I can share, but Madam President?
Thank you, Mayor. I saw Councilor Rotundo's hand, so Councilor Rotundo, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Madam President. Mayor, I know, during the negotiations, was there a talk or consideration of going to every other week for recycling? Salem does it currently successfully. I have to assume there would have been a savings in that. So I'm curious as what was the savings of that?
Yeah. We looked at all different options. In fact, in the RFEI, looking to Mr. General, we put all kinds of options on the table around different things, including frequency. There would be a savings for picking up recycling every other week. I don't believe, and I think there are a lot who would agree that it's not the right policy decision to go every other week with recycling. We are trying to help people put out less trash. And so, no, we looked at that and we left it aside. We didn't make that part of the contract we signed.
Do you have a number, though, that you could give us? That what would have been the same? I have to assume there was a number.
I'm looking for the neighborhood of about 400 to 500. Yep.
So is that per year or is that?
Per year.
So $400 to $500 would have been on the table to.
$400 to $500,000 per year. Yeah.
That could have been considered on
Yeah.
this contract.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. One other follow-up question?
Yes.
I know on the amendments, we kind of briefed on 24420, it's the review process. I know I had considered it. Is that something you would consider similar to what we do with salaries and other things, is having a review process every so many years so we don't fall into this situation of having.
Oh, review of the fee.
Reviewing the fee every so many years.
Yeah. I mean, sure. I think if it had gone up, a few times over the last 20 years, then it wouldn't be as jarring to be asking more now. I hear you. I also, if I could say this, there are plenty of things that I've had to say during this process of walking through the proposal that I haven't wanted to say. Like you can't have an overflow bag. There aren't a lot of options for taking your own trash somewhere else if you have extra. So, one of the things we've discussed is whether we should offer an opt-up option for trash. And I think it's something that we should be looking at. And I say it because you have in front of you a proposal on fees. And, maybe this might be a friendly amendment you might think about. We could go from the 65 to the 95 if somebody wanted to opt up on trash. They would need to pay significantly more to do it. And I don't know that many people would want to pay more because they think that occasionally they're going to have more trash than 65. But some people may look and think they just flat out can't do 65 on a regular basis. And if that's the case, offering a 95 at a higher fee, I think that higher fee would need to be, at least higher by the same amount that the 35 is lower. And when I heard you folks were talking about a 300 on the higher end, on the 64-gallon trash, if you go there, I would ask you to make the lower a 200, not a 210. And maybe, you know, it's rounding, it's clean. And maybe if you look at an up to 95, you go up correspondingly. Maybe that goes to 400. You know, this has all been an attempt to figure out how to kind of accurately affix the fees based on usage, based on tonnage, in a way that covers the cost of the program, as you know. And you know, I am sensitive to how everything is hard to afford. So anyway, just thinking, if you folks want to look at that 95 option, but with an opt-up that has a higher price tag, I'd want to talk through that with you and, you know, maybe be supportive of that effort.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Feldman has a direct follow-up, so we'll go Counselor Feldman and then Counselor St. Hilaire. You'll be next. I know you've been waiting. Counselor Feldman, you have a direct follow-up to this.
Kind of a two-part question in terms of the assessing what Counselor Rotundo brought up about assessing the fee every few years or so. Sure. So we're not kind of in this big jump position again. Part of it is I don't like working on an ordinance change that requires a fixed number. And I was actually speaking with former Councilor Brendan Sweeney this morning, and he was saying how the goal in Boxford is always the 50-50 split, and this year they had to go up to 60-40 in terms of like consumer paying and not. And is there any possibility of amending this to be more percentage based of the fee, so it incrementally is built in to connected to the actual number instead of a fixed fee that doesn't get assessed in terms of the times? And then additionally, so that part, but also, was pay as you throw considered, and why not? And why not if we didn't go that route?
Okay. I might ask Mr. Ailes to come up and help me with your first point. We might need to kind of have a little back and forth so I can more fully understand it. When you mention Boxford, I just want to point out a couple of things here. This is the Essex County tax bills. There are 35 communities in Essex County. And yes, I get it, because I pay my taxes too, and I'm paying, you know, for gas, and I'm paying for you. We're all paying for the same things. And everything feels hard right now. And so I don't want to be insensitive to that on any of our behalfs. But I just want to make sure that we factually understand there are 35 communities in Essex County. 13 have a lower average tax bill than Beverly. 21 have a higher average tax bill than Beverly. Our average tax bill, it's an average, our average tax bill this current year is $8,834. You mentioned Boxford. Boxford's average tax bill is $13,673. So when we think about, you know, what percentage of the program should be subsidized by a town or a city operating budget, what by the users, you know, and I'll say this, and you've heard me say this, Counselor, you know, I know you have. In 2003, state aid made up 24% of our operating budget. The state, 2 recessions later, and some years later, and the state money makes up 13% of our operating budget. It's just a reality that we and a lot of other cities and towns are struggling with, making it harder and harder and harder to deliver on key core critical services. Correct. So I do want to answer the other, and the pay as you throw, you know, what we have today is kind of a modified pay as you throw, right? 2 barrels plus you can put out an overflow bag. What we're going to, in some ways, is also modified pay as you throw. If you think you can go with 1 35-gallon cart, you can pay less on the proposed fee, whatever ends up passing. Some communities have gone to carts. You can't, with an automated system, do an old-fashioned pay-as-you-throw, where you just buy the bag, put the trash in the bag, put the bag out. You still have to put it, whatever you're putting inside the carts. Some communities actually do that. They get the cart and they pay for the bags that go in the cart. We're not doing that. And I do want to point out, I forgot to say it earlier, you all know because I talked with you about it and we put the ask into you for free cash approval that is going to have a public hearing on June 1st. We decided to ask you for use of about, what is it, 1.4, Brian? The carts. Oh, the one, so 1.6 million so that we can buy the 26,000 plus carts so that every customer in the community who's in our program gets one trash cart, one recycling cart. And, you know, we didn't think that makes sense to do any other way. So that's there, you know, everybody, because people have asked, do they have to buy a cart? Again, it's all of our money, but we're asking that we use those reserves to make that purchase. So do you want to try to answer Councilor's question?
The 50-50, just so, the goal even in Beverly was, to my knowledge, for it to be 50-50, basically, subsidized.
Fee versus operating budget?
Fee versus, yes. And that's, from what I was historically kind of, that was the goal, but we've slipped to 30-70. And I guess that's why I'm saying, if we were to amend this, if we wanted to retain those goals, that's where we should be changing it on an incremental basis to match, so there aren't these jumps. So that's, if the goal was originally to be 50-50, then that's part of my concern with
you know,
a fixed dollar amount.
There have been a number of things said tonight, suggestion that the city should do a better job with our capital assets so we don't have to ask for CPA funds, but those are public tax dollars. And so it's entirely appropriate to look for CPA help for city assets. It was suggested earlier that the trash fees shouldn't go up as much, but the schools should get a lot more money. You know, we all have to understand, we don't, you know, it's harder and harder to meet the obligations we have and to make sure that the services that people count on, and it's across the board. It's making sure the police and the fire and the ambulance show up when you need them. It's making sure the trash and recycling gets picked up. It's making sure that you get plowed. It's making sure that restaurants are safe to eat in because our Department of Health is inspecting, right? It's making sure that our beaches and our parks and our senior center and our veteran services and our, you know, all across the board are delivered in the way people need them, our libraries. So, you know, we have to be realistic and fact-based about all of this.
Thank you, Solicitor Oldmixon.
Hi. Good evening. Just briefly to touch upon kind of the part of the ordinance restricting, I just want to remind you that under Massachusetts case law, one legislative body can't bind a future legislative body for a specific appropriation. So while you could have a goal specifically restricting what that appropriation would be to basically abrogating the authority of the future council. If that makes sense, if you'd like to talk about it more, but that's just one kind of concept to keep in mind.
Okay. We're good, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councilor St. Hilaire, you've been waiting. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to address a few of the mayor's comments related to the financial forecast, his communications with the city council and the city hall project. Regarding the financial forecast, I have the committee report here from December. I attended every single one of the meetings, and I think it's, you know, they suggested a lot of things. They suggested exploring revenue enhancements, including establishing a higher trash fee, but also reviewing school committee opportunities to raise certain school-related fees, studying whether parking fees and fines should be increased, considering certain reductions to municipal services, including possible reductions in municipal and school staffing through attrition and or reduction, of workforce, and also had considerable conversation regarding a Prop 2.5 override. So I think it's a little bit, you know, I don't think you can take from that they said raise the trash fee to $425. And, you know, I know we had a conversation, Mr. Mayor, about raising the trash fee, but I found out about the $425 fee from Paul Layton from the Beverly Beat. I found out about the Casella contract the day you signed it at a public meeting in Ward 3 outside of my ward. This is the very first presentation you've made to the council on this topic. Related to City Hall, you ask, what is the goal of not moving forward with that project? The goal would be to stop this outrageous tax fee increase on our residents. That's the goal, is to not pass along. We're basically plugging the deficit with an increase on the trash fee is what you're doing. And regarding the debt line, we're still paying for Beverly High School. We're still paying for the middle school. We're still paying for the police station that was built. We have a ton of debt. It's not like we have no debt. And, you know, I get that it's best practice to be around 5 to 8%. I appreciate that. But in our time, when people are struggling the way they are, it's time to reevaluate best practices. And best practice for me is not passing along these increases to our residents who can't afford them. So that's my position. I think there's lots of things you could do to balance the budget. We have a $200 million budget. You know, I've suggested all kinds of things in the past: hiring freezes, travel freezes, renegotiating health insurance. We've added all these positions in the mayor's office, Mr. Mayor. These are nice to have. At a time like this, we need to reevaluate our cost decisions, our spending decisions. And, you know, with all due respect, you passed City Hall in January. We had no idea that this was the decision. I warned our councilors against that. I appreciate why some of you voted for that. But how can you sit here and say that that was a good decision? We have a $425 fee. It's been reduced to $300. That's paying for the City Hall renovation. There's needs here, but $30 million, I mean, that's not, it's outrageous in this time. So I would just urge you guys to reconsider all of this. We need a big picture change here. We need to live in reality. We can't afford these decisions we've made, and it's time to pay the bill.
Councilor Feldman.
I'd love to get up here and say things that are like popular, like we can just take the $30 million from City Hall and use it to plug the deficit. But that's not reality. And we all know, all of us here are smart enough to know, operating expenses should not be paid for with debt or capital expenses. And I know that we're all smart enough up here to know that's how it works, because we've all worked with the budget before. So I find it very, very disingenuous to propose that we would use a debt to our city to plug a gap. And I know this, I understand the optics of this are terrible. I said this back in January when we voted for this. The optics aren't great, but these are facts. I have teenage sons, and I'm a mom. I deliver bad news that people don't like all the time. I'm living in reality, and these are the facts. The costs of everything for the last 10 years plus have gone up more than 3 to 5% across the board, for your households, for my households, for the city. This is an unsustainable revenue stream that we are going to be facing that is not going to make up for the amount of expenses that the city has incurred just to deliver level services. The problem with this specific fee, which I don't like how it came out, it is more expensive per person than we did discuss in financial forecasting, because we did look at a $330 trash fee in that. But in addition to those recommendations, the problem with the timing of this trash fee is that we're hearing this just prior to the budget, which is next month. So I will admit, that is really tough. It's really tough to make these decisions and these choices in a vacuum. But I can assure you, in this financial forecasting report, like you said, like Councilor St. Hilaire did say in December, we recommended that there will have to be cuts as well. So this isn't if we just do this, we won't have to cut anything. We just haven't heard the cuts yet. The public has not heard the cuts yet. There will be cuts. There has to be cuts. This is a both and situation. People are not understanding that this deficit that we're looking at, it's $4 million this year, it's $7 million in 2 years. So raising the trash fee one time isn't going to fix that $7 million unless we have cuts that are recurring operational expenses, that we change the infrastructure of the budget. And that's why we're forming a committee to try and look at these options to increase revenue and decrease expenses. It's not realistic to say we won't do City Hall and then all of a sudden, poof, all of our problems are solved. That's not how it works. And you know it, and we all know it. And the public should know it, and that's why I'm saying it now, because it's not fair to put information out there in the public's mind to think, well, we can just do that, because we can't just do that. That's not best practices.
Madam President, first off, in response to Councilor Feldman's comments, I resent the fact that she stated that she thinks I am trying to say what is popular. I've stood up here and opposed the budget for the last 3 years. I've recommended dozens of budget cuts. You all have gone along and made those expenditures, and here we are with a $3.9 million deficit. Okay, I've taken the lone vote many, many times. I don't say what's popular. I say what's common sense and what the residents I represent expect me to say. Regarding City Hall, you're dead wrong. Okay, this is $2 million in our debt payment next year that's in the general funds of our operating budget. We choose to spend 5% on debt. Okay, we don't have to do that. That money can be used for anything, and it can be used to offset the trash fee that this mayor is asking us to pass. And regarding other expenditures, there's tons of things we could do. We could restructure, we could find efficiencies, we could renegotiate our health insurance, we could pass hiring freezes, we could eliminate all the positions that we've added that add no value to our residents. Okay, it's disingenuous for you to suggest we can't do anything. We just have to go along with that. That is not the case. We can absolutely stop City Hall. Shovel has not been lifted. Now is the time to reconsider the way we're spending city resources. You're right, it's not sustainable. This is a one-time thing. Next year it's going to be an override. And guess what? I'm opposed to that too. Because again, our residents are paying through the nose all over the place for every single thing, and they cannot afford it. We're driving residents out of our city, and it's not right.
Counselor Milady, and then I've been seeing your hand, so I think the order that I have right now is Counselor Milady, Houseman, Sonia, Spang. I'll keep watching for hands as well. Counselor Milady.
Thank you very much. I have a friend, Justin, he's a firefighter in Salem, and he recommended this writer to me. His name is Ryan Holiday, and his book's called The Daily Stoic. So today, while I was reading this little daily meditation, I came across this quote, and I'd like to share it with my fellow counselors tonight, as well as members of the city administration. It's fun to think about the future. It's easy to ruminate on the past. It's harder to put that energy into what's in front of you right now at this moment, especially if it's something we don't want to do. And I think it's fair to say that right now, we're talking about something that nobody here wants to do, and that is increasing the burden on our friends, our neighbors, and our family. And I think it's also fair to say that nobody up here, the mayor as well, we didn't throw our hats in the ring to be a burden on other people. We threw our hats in the ring to try to do the best that we can. I appreciate the time I spent with the mayor and Brian and Jerry. I understand that the current fee structure is not sustainable. And I also understand that what's proposed is also not sustainable for many people. What gives me a sense of hope is that we're not alone in this conversation. Other communities are going through this as well, and that's not a misery loves company type of thing. But we're all in this financial bleep storm right now. The good news is we have the ability to find a compromise on the fee structure, a compromise that, while it may not make everybody happy, hopefully we can minimize the burden. And we also have the ability, and what it really is a privilege, to work on address the concerns that have been brought forward to us through our communications with everybody. So I love the spirited conversation. I love the passion that everybody's bringing to this. It's not going to clearly be resolved tonight, but at some point we're going to find a way to work our way through it.
Thank you, Counselor Milady. Counselor Houseman.
Yeah, there are a number of things I could talk about, but I'm going to try to keep it fairly focused and limited. One thing I want to, it's not part of the contract at all, it was more along the spirit of Councilor Milady's point, which is we are having a policy discussion, and we can have a policy discussion that is not personal, and I don't think any of the comments up here, whether they're heated or calm, are personal comments. They are position comments about policy. And I just want to say that this council has a long culture of operating in that regard. Not all the cities and towns have that. And I want to just restate that that is part of the DNA of this council, and it's important for us to keep that. I have a question or two that I want to make and then a comment. One question is, Mayor, as you know, those of us on the council have not had much time to look at the contract, including me. I do have sort of a procedural question, which is, I've only had a chance to sort of scan the contract, but I am curious as to what is in the contract that enables the council to amend the contract, because I don't really see language in there that sort of explicitly talks about the contingency for the council to change the terms of the contract. So I don't know if this is for you or the city solicitor, but could you just speak to that procedurally for the council's benefit?
Thank you, Solicitor.
No such.
There is no language in the contract for the city council to amend the contract. That's, okay. Yeah.
So
Let's just remember, it's the executive branch's obligation and responsibility to negotiate and sign that contract. This is
already been
not
signed,
that.
yeah.
This is a conversation about whether you are going to approve the proposed fees from us, something less, and if it's something less, then there are more steps that will need to be taken. And I do want to thank Councilor St. Hilaire for, reading a few of the other recommendations of the Financial Forecasting Committee. You will hear when the budget is put in front of you, the proposed budget, the number of positions that have been eliminated on the city side of the budget. You are aware, I believe, that the proposal of new money to the schools is $4.5 million of a total new revenues of about 5.8. So just to get a sense of that, and you know that on the 1.3 million that's not going to the schools, there's a roughly 4.5% increase on our state mandated pension fund investment, and there's a proposed 9% increase in the healthcare cost. So those are a couple big drivers right there with what's left to spend. You also remember that last year, when we had about $7.76 million in new money to spend, we put $7.6 million of it into the schools and $176,000 of it into the city side of government. So, we collectively have been figuratively twisting ourselves inside out and in knots to make these budgets balance year in and year out, and also to push as much money into our education system as we possibly can, because we all understand the value of it and the importance of a strong school system to any given community. And then, we are involved in conversations with some of our nonprofits to try to, there's the main nonprofit payment that comes to the city every year is a donation from Endicott. And that's been due for a recalibration, and we're in that process. It won't come to a conclusion in time to be part of this conversation likely before June 30th, but it's something that we hope will begin to help us, moving forward. And to the extent there are other nonprofits who might be in a position to help, we're evaluating that. I think the important thing to remember when we look to nonprofits is that they are not bound to make any payment to any city or town under federal law. They are nonprofits specifically because they are supposed to bring significant community benefit as part of how they earn their nonprofit status. They have no obligation to pay what some people want to call a pilot payment, but we are, in conversations with Endicott, and we'll broaden that out as that, hopefully comes to a different place than it has been.
Madam President, I'd like to continue.
Yes, Councilor Husband. And Councilor St. Hilaire, I have you on the list. I see your hand. Thank you. Councilor Husband.
Yeah, so I want to make a comment, but I also think I'd like to hear from our budget analyst as well, probably sooner than later as we go through this conversation. I just want to make a comment which I made, I think the last time when we had to make a vote on the City Hall renovation. It is true, I'm going to, for the sake of argument, agree with Councilor St. Hilaire that we have other debt on the books, but it is the case that debt rolls off, and if you don't add new debt, then that debt capacity goes down. And really, to not maintain a debt structure for the city is not solving a problem, it is creating an additional problem. Because what it does is it deprives our operating budget of the ability to take care of any capital expenditures. And so you can forget about being able to pay to replace the school roofs as they come due, for example. And that's just one example, but we could go on. As the mayor said, we have many buildings. I think he said 40. If
About
we don't-
20.
How many?
About 20.
Oh, 20, I'm sorry, thank you for the correction. You know, we also have a financial responsibility as a council to not only look at the operating budget, but also to look at our capital expense structure and how we pay for it. So it is really, in my opinion, really only creates an additional problem if we don't maintain debt structure. And this is a process that the council has already spent $1.5 million on, I believe, and we are well on this, well in the procedure to process of the City Hall renovation. So it doesn't really work to say that if we simply don't do that project, it sort of solves this immediate affordability issue, and that is what it is. We all have affordability issues, whether it's gas at the pump. We are not responsible here at the City Hall, and neither is the mayor or the council, for the fact that residential values have gone through the roof, making the possibility for young couples to afford to buy a house, for many of them, if not most of them, out of reach. But that is a independent factor over which we don't have control. It makes makes it real that we have an affordability crisis. But, this is just one example of the affordability challenge that we face. So I will leave it at that, I guess, and would ask if we could maybe hear Mr. Perry before we have other councils, but I leave that to you, Madam President.
I will ask Mr. Perry to come up, but I would like to let Councilors Sonia and Spang get it. We haven't heard their voices yet. And Councilor St. Hilaire, I know you've been waiting, so I'd like to do those three, and then Mr. Perry, we could bring you up at that point. But Councilor Sonia, I'd like to invite you to get in on this, and then Councilor Spang, Councilor St. Hilaire, you'll be after that.
Wow, it's exciting to get in on this. I'm reminded, Councilor Houseman reminded me that I signed up for this, so it's good to be here. As the newest member of the council, I have Councilor Mulady beat by a couple meetings. He joined slightly earlier than me. I've been approaching every issue with fresh 4 eyes and a commitment to understanding both the needs of our city and the concerns of our residents. I do want to second the point that Mr. Mulady made, which is that cities across the region are facing very difficult choices right now. A helpful constituent sent me a spreadsheet of area trash fees and how they have either gone up or proposed to go up. And so we are certainly not immune to those conversations here, of course. Tonight's discussion about raising the trash fee from $100 to $425 is a part of a multi-step process, and I understand that. I think there are some basic expectations. I don't think I'd be doing my job as a counselor, I think the first role is to take feedback from the public and then bring that back to meetings like this and to conversations with the mayor and the administration. I think process-wise, there's probably a lot more to be desired, right? Like, learning some of the basics at the same time as the public, who are then going to then ask us questions. It doesn't square, right? It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. I understand the negotiations are hard. They're often drawn out. But I think empowering counselors to be that first port of call, particularly, I say this as an at-large counselor. I know that ward counselors are often inundated with calls. Empowering those folks to be able to answer questions, particularly about something that's so obviously going to be divisive, I think is just essential. And I really welcome the opportunity to work with the administration in any kind of way. I understand the charter empowers the mayor and his team with a great deal of oversight over the city, but however we can improve that process of when the council gets information to be able to then take that feedback and answer important questions to make this easier, I would say, for the administration, frankly. If we're able to answer questions and provide that, knowledge to our constituents, I think when, Mr. Mayor, you're walking into a public meeting, folks won't feel like this is from left field or anything like that. We would have greased the skids for you. I agree with Councilor St. Hilaire. We do not have the FY27 budget, so there's not really an opportunity to weigh trade-offs or, the opportunity to evaluate whether the fee increase is part of a thoughtful long-term plan or a reaction to just the immediate pressures. But as part of the discussion, I'm sure I can say confidently that, I share the beliefs of my colleagues and neighbors that we should keep sight of what makes a city strong, and this echoes some of the public comments earlier: outstanding public schools, reliable infrastructure, and a transparent government that earns the trust of the people it serves. Okay, so that's the canned remarks. Mr. Mayor, just a question. Folks have brought up, Mr. Rotundo has offered an amendment. You came back and said, well, we'd have to look at, I think you said maybe 1.4 million. I'm wondering if you have taken a look at what those cuts would actually be. I think it's important to try to give the public an opportunity to understand, how you'd go about getting to that number. What would be, something you'd be taking a look at? What would, to be crass, be on the chopping block, I guess? Because I think that makes, helps them understand maybe why the fee might be very necessary versus some of the harder choices we might have to make.
So the budget that I will be presenting to you that has a number of fewer positions on the city side of government presumes the proposed fees be adopted. So if something less comes back,
Right.
that means that some combination of less funding to city departments, perhaps to the schools, than the 4.5 that we've already tried to, make a commitment to. Perhaps more layoffs. There's not a lot left of anything discretionary. We tried not to completely eliminate the 3 consulting lines because, for example, in trying to build sidewalks in Ward 6, we had to go and survey 7 properties in the last few months, and that's money we had to take from a couple of lines that we didn't plan to spend on. So we can eliminate the small amounts that are left that you might call flexible in any way. And I can't see us doing it without some additional position cuts beyond what we're already proposing or will be proposing. So what we may end up doing is needing to go with a lower number on roads and sidewalks. And if that's the case, we'll come back to you at your public hearing on the 1st and we'll recommend a downward number. It's not what we want to do. It's not automatic, Councilor. There are a lot of things we've got to look at, but in hearing the other day that you're looking at at the numbers you're looking at, we've started, to try to figure out how to do this. As has been suggested to me by the financial people, if the 1.4 is removed from the equation, then maybe we should make all the 1.4 come out of the operating budget. That would put us in a place where I'm not confident we'd be delivering the services that we're supposed to. So that's where I'm looking potentially at some one-time money with a thought that this may be for now, we might be right back here next year reviewing the fee again. But it would at least allow some acknowledgement, if that's the way you want to go with it, about the challenges that people are facing. But as I said, we have already been put in the position of taking some things out of the operating budget that now rely on one-time funds to fund them. Vehicles, equipment and vehicles in police and inspectional equipment and vehicles at DPS, and roads and sidewalks. That's not unique or unusual. There was zero in roads and sidewalks when I started in 2014, and we built that line. But, you know, we are already using some one-time money to pay for things that essentially do recur. You know, although there was a time, and you've heard me say it many times, there was a time when the city put a zero next to roads and sidewalks for 10 consecutive budgets because, you know, because the reality was we were in recession for most of that decade. So the things I've mentioned are possibilities. There are other things. So,
just real quick. Yeah, thank you, Madam President. Just real quick. First off, I do want to say that I was glad to hear in the meeting I had with you and Mr. Ailes that you are having those conversations with Endicott. I know at least myself, I think Mr. Mulady, and maybe a couple others during the campaign season did bring that up, and I think that's a positive step. I'm wondering, like you mentioned the schools, has that been communicated to the superintendent? Like, has there been a conversation held with the superintendent where, you know, you hypothesize that this council says no to this fee and what that would look like for the schools, and has, you know, not to ask you to reveal private conversations with the superintendent, but have you had those conversations, and what have those been like?
I will if I need to.
Right.
You know, you folks have something in front of you. Two things have been proposed, the first from me and the second that was, I guess, amended in subcommittee. If you take an initial vote tonight to do less than what was proposed by us, then I'll absolutely have to talk with the superintendent. And I think, you know, you all know that we're scheduled Wednesday night, 2 nights from now, to discuss, debate, and vote on the school budget. So if that needs to look different based on, you know, having $1.4 million less to work with, then, you know, we got to figure that piece out.
Yeah, I guess a frustration would be, and understand, again, a new guy at the dais, I totally get it, but a frustration would be that the contract that was signed, and so I guess you ought to have had those conversations. Like, I guess it was always a possibility that we could say no, unless you never thought that was a possibility for some reason. I'm not sure.
This council has said no to me before. Councilor, you've been in the audience watching and listening.
Sure, yeah.
So
I just, you know, process-wise, you know, I think there should be some follow-up for sure. Final question, I'm sorry, I've bogarted the conversation, but have you learned anything, Mr. Mayor, I guess, through this process? And I mean this in this is a friendly question, but I mean, is there something you can take away from the way that this has been brought out to the public, you know, that you know, we can all learn from, you know, as a city government, and you know, how in that storytelling piece we could, you know, be a bit better, be a bit more transparent?
this is a process. We're in it. You know, as soon as we had real numbers, we immediately scheduled a slate of meetings. We're in the community, we'll do more. It is, I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Councillor Spang, and then Councillor St. Hilaire, Councillor Rotundo, and then at that point, Mr. Perry, if you'd be willing to come up after Councillor Rotundo, I think that would be great. Councillor Spang.
Thank you, Madam President. I would just thank you for the presentation and all the work that your team has put into this. I have been hearing from a number of residents, as I'm sure everyone has, about how much this increase, the proposed increase, would impact people's lives. And I think it's coming at an especially hard time because prices are up at the gas pump, they're up at the grocery store, they're up across the board on bills that people pay. And I think this is one bill where people feel like they have a say, and they get to have a say through counselors and through talking with you in your office. I don't feel comfortable voting on it yet. I would like to understand better what the trade-offs are if we went with the lower fee. It sounded like you were saying that some of those trade-offs may be a reduced amount of funding to the schools. I would like to know what those trade-offs are before we take a vote, just myself personally. And I guess that's where I'm at in the process. The other thing that people have mentioned to me is people with high medical needs sometimes produce more waste than maybe
Correct.
accommodated in the bills and the sizes of the bins. So hearing you mention that there might be an option for people to size up, I think that would be helpful for especially people with medical needs that generate more waste.
Yeah. If I could, Madam President, thank you, Counselor. You know, with Casella, one of the things they recommended to us was that we make all the carts one color. In some communities, it's one color for trash, one for recycling, but we make them all the same color, and we make the lids different colors. And the lid will tell the collection team, this is trash, this is recycling, which allows us to offer the opt-downs in size. And I will say to you, we have discussed this. I think it's important that there be an opportunity for somebody to opt up. Much as we're all trying to help people find ways to put less in their trash, I think there are a number of types of dynamics in households that make it difficult. So yes, I would. I propose that you amend my proposal on fees by adding an option to opt up on trash to 95, and you make the increase the same as the decrease is for going down to 35. I think it's a $145 difference. Is that right, Brian? Now, if you go with a different proposal like you've got coming out of subcommittee, I would similarly ask that you make it the same up to 95 as down to 35 would be. If that makes sense to you folks as you're thinking it through.
Councilor Spanier, okay, thank you. Councilor St. Hilaire, and then Councilor Rotundo, please.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to point out a reality of what we're talking about. If we move forward with City Hall, if we move forward with an increase of the trash fee, in our FY27 budget, we will have $2 million to renovate City Hall, new meeting spaces, new bathrooms, a big annex on the back. We'll have $0 in our road and sidewalk line item operating budget because we had to trade that off last year and the year before and didn't have the money for that. To me, that's a mismatch on priorities. The residents I hear from, all they talk about is when we're going to pave our roads and sidewalks. We've zeroed that out of the roads of the budget. I get that we've been funding it on a capital expenditure on a one-time basis, but that should be in the budget as regular operating expenditures. The other piece is, at the same time, we're going to be raising their trash fee, okay? And to me, it's a simple choice. We can do City Hall, and we can continue to operate the way we're operating, or not. And that's a choice. We do not have to raise the trash fees. The $2 million can be directly offset this year. And, I just want to say to Councilor Houseman, you talk about affordability as the biggest problem in this city. By increasing this trash fee, we are choosing to add a burden on the biggest issue facing our residents every single day. And I don't know why you guys signed up to be a city councilor. I signed up to help the residents I represent, and that is the last thing that they want. And so for me, this is a very easy decision. I have Councilor Sonia in mind here in asking the mayor, when are we going to see an FY27 proposed budget? I take, your comment about cuts. I haven't seen that in your 12 years. I would like to see that before I vote on this.
Madam President, you can all read your charter, our charter. You understand this. I was criticized greatly last year because the budget didn't come out 3 months ago. The city charter has a timeline and a process. We will send our proposed budget to print after the school budget is finalized. You will get it on June 1st. That is in line with what the charter and the ordinances say, and it has happened every single year since I've been paying attention, since well before I was mayor. And if you don't want to take a vote tonight because you want to wait and see that budget, then don't. Take a vote.
My preference is that we take a vote and we reject the fee outright. Yes. I would like to send this back to you and work on the budget. At the very least, I agree with Councilor Spang. How can we possibly support an increase without any knowledge of what you're considering elsewhere in the budget? I don't see how we can do that.
Councilor Rotundo.
Mr. Mayor, you had stated that there's about $400,000, $500,000 savings going to be going every other week. And I know you said it was a policy thing. But it is in fact a savings that could be had, which then would take that 1.4 and make it 900,000, which would make it a little easy to make cuts if we were to go with the amendment that's on the table right now. Is there an opportunity to reconsider in the contract, even for 1 year? Give it 1 year, seeing if the every other week recycling works. And then if that is not successful, then you look at it for next year. Is that something that could be considered or reconsidered in the contract?
Was it Danvers who tried it and then went back to weekly? Hamilton? I will tell you that Medford signed a contract a year ago, and they were proposing going to every other week for trash. And they haven't even gotten to that point, and they already did an about-face and went back to their, back to their hauler. And so if we were to go every other week on recycling and then find that it didn't work, I tell you what, you're asking me to look at it, I'll look at it. I don't know what other repercussions would come from going to every other week. We are trying to get people to put things in recycling bins that they're currently putting in trash. So I don't know. Is the size bin that we're offering for recycling sufficient that they could go every other week? We've already had a good number of people say that bin is too big for them to maneuver, or it's too big for their property to store. And so, and I think I don't know what we'd hear from people who would object to going to every other week when it's been every week for quite a number of years. And it's been a successful program. So we'll go back and give it a look, but I'm not going to make any promises, but we'll go give it a look, and let's you and me follow up after we've looked at it.
Right. I also just want to point out, Salem, who's similar in size and geographic location, does do it. So they are doing it successfully, or not successfully, but they haven't changed it. And also, remember, we're looking at things, we're increasing the fee, which we haven't done in many years. And so for many years, we've had every week recycling. Maybe it's time to rethink to save some of that money. So I just want to...
Should we go every other week trash?
That's been mentioned, believe it or not. That has been suggested as another thing, but I think maybe...
I mean, it's been tried in other communities, and I'm not sure how well it goes. There are communities that do collection of compost. And I think it's easier to go every other week trash if you're actively collecting compost at the curb. Let's follow up. I don't know how to answer you in terms of whether we would look at that and find that there are, unintended consequences that would undermine the effectiveness or the desirability of doing it.
Thank you, Councilor Rotundo. Mr. Perry, if I could invite you up. I heard Councilor Hausman ask for that earlier, and I had mentioned when we got to Councilor Rotundo, I'd like to pause and invite you up. Anything that you would like to share, but then, councilors, if you have questions for Mr. Perry.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the council. Let me just go through some thoughts and comments, of everything I've heard tonight. And as you know, I sent you a memo last Friday with some information on it, which I'll touch upon for a few minutes. As articulated and as you saw in the contract is about a $5.4 million contract for the fiscal year 27. That is, and this is something you need to think about, a 38% increase in the contract. That's a lot of money. That is not the fault of the city council. It's not the fault of the mayor. And it's not the fault of his staff. It's the reality of what it costs to collect and dispose of trash. What this conversation is going on numerous other communities, and they're all having the same conversation. Think of the laws of Proposition 2.5. 2.5% of revenue increase does not equal 38%. It's math. It's real easy. You're going to hear a little bit more about this when we get into the budget of the math challenges that not only the city of Beverly is facing, but all the other cities and towns in the Commonwealth. I'm sure you'd have to be living in a cave if you didn't know that everybody out there is really struggling financially to provide services. It's a really difficult situation. Most of the cities and towns are going to more enterprise funds and raising the fees for trash because they can't afford it in the general fund. And you're hearing the same conversation here tonight. Again, it's math. You just can't, this trash has gotten so expensive. It's just ridiculous, and the laws of Prop 2.5 just don't really work when it comes to this service any longer. So the fact that you're talking about fees is not really an abnormal exercise. It's going on everywhere, not only in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, but throughout the entire country, quite frankly. I sat at this podium 2 years ago and told you you were going to have a problem this year. A couple of you were not here, but the rest of you were here. 7 of you were here. I've been saying for 2 years, not only publicly but privately, that you had a big problem in FY27. We're here. Not only that, but you've heard through the hard work of Councilor Feldman and Councilor Hausman of the financial forecast. Ironically, you're almost spot on in your analysis there, because we're about 3.9 out of whack here, and the mayor's trying to make it up without a doubt with these trash fees, which we articulated not only in writing, but it was actually for the first time since I've been here for 10 years, we put it on BevCam to try to educate everybody in the community, some of whom were here, that this was coming and it was a real problem. So it shouldn't be a shock and surprise to anybody that the discussion of trash fees was going to happen this year. Now, you've asked, a lot of you, and this is, the time, in my humble opinion, I'm just your budget analyst, you got to do what you all got to do. The time has come. You've had plenty of time to think this through. I understand your frustrations. You just got the contract, at least through me, on Friday. I got that. And I wish I could have gotten it early. I think it was signed on May 8th or 9th or something like that. So I understand how difficult this is, but the time has come. In my humble opinion, in order to build a budget based on my almost 5 decades of doing this stuff here, the administration needs to know how much money they got, whatever it is. And as you know from my memo, I make no recommendation here to any of you whether you should raise these fees, keep it the same, drop it down, amend it. That is a major policy decision between the mayor and the 9 of you to make. I will not recommend that. However, in my view, and I strongly recommend to the city council as your budget analyst to make decisions, because they got to build a budget. In my real strong view, you need to make a decision before the mayor comes to you on June 1st with his budget. He needs to know what he has. And I would suggest you strongly that you do make a decision tonight. I'm sure, I already can tell some of you are not going to do that. And it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But Madam President, I would suggest to you that if you don't make a decision tonight, I would keep posting meetings, and you're going to need 2, and get it done before June 1st. That's my advice to you as the president and to all of you as city councilors. Now, I've also, a couple of you reached out to me and asked me to address some of the conversation with the City Hall budget, the City Hall project. I want to refresh your memory. Again, 7 of the 9 of you were here back in March of 2022. That's the first time we addressed this stuff. And at that time, there was a transfer under order 050 from free cash in the amount of $1.5 million. I actually printed out my own report to all of you back then, and I'm going to read one portion of the report on that. I recommend approval of this request with one caveat. Should the City Council approve this transfer, it is with the understanding that future appropriations or transfers will be necessary over the next 3 to 4 years to successfully finance the overall project. And I could be wrong, and maybe the clerk can help me here. My recollection, that was a unanimous vote. Everybody voted for that, knowing that if you're going to put the down payment to do this, that you had to see it through down the road. I'll further inform you, based on my discussions with the finance director, that it's my understanding to date, we have spent $3.5 million on this project to date. And if you were to rescind the project, you're going to have to face the taxpayers of this community to say, why would we pour $3.5 million down the drain? Because you've already committed to it. That, in my strong opinion, does not meet your fiduciary responsibilities as elected officials here. With regard to the percentages of the debt, I was really taken by Councilman Malady, got my attention tonight a little bit. He's right. He made the comment about we haven't kept up with some of the infrastructure costs here. I've advised you, based on my years of experience, that the right number, in my opinion, is 7% to take care of infrastructure costs. We're at 5%. We're below what I think you should do. Again, it's your decision, But I think you're going to have a difficult time moving forward to try to do infrastructure if you take this City Hall project and even try to reduce it further. And I really say to you that I am seriously concerned that if you try to do that, the ability to take care of those school roofs, the school HVAC systems is very much in jeopardy. And we need to do that over the next 3 to 5 years. So again, that's a policy decision, whether you want to rescind this stuff or not, but I want to refresh your memory on that. And then the last thing, I'm not an attorney. The city solicitor's here tonight. I keep hearing people want this consideration to get rid of this project. I don't know the legalities of reconsideration. I don't even know what the rules are. My understanding, we have some council rules on reconsideration, 48 hours or whatever it is, and I defer to the solicitor or even the council president on some of that stuff. But if we're going to do that, you have to go through some legal hoops to even make the effort, and I don't even know how to do that. Madam President, members of the council, this is a very difficult thing. It is going on everywhere. In terms of the transparency of this conversation, we've been talking about it for 2 years. I had a nice gentleman who I sat right next to. We had a long conversation. He's going to get mad at me here, but he didn't know a lot of stuff. I was talking to him and explaining, and he kind of said, wow, I didn't realize this stuff. I understand how difficult it is to get this stuff out there and the challenges contained therein. Trash is expensive. It's as simple as that, and you have to consider that. I don't know what the budget is going to be. I have some thoughts. My instincts tell me, without knowing, that even if you pass this as the mayor has requested, he already stated, you're going to make some cuts in government here, I guess on the municipal side. That's what he says. I don't know that. But if you even reduce it by 1.4, it's going to get a bit more draconian. Again, now your decision, what you want to do. But if it helps you in terms of understanding what the 1.4 is, and I've discussed this at great length with the finance director, look at it this way. Every position with benefits on average is about $100,000. So he's already telling you, even at what he's requesting, he's going to make cuts. But if you even bring it down lower, you're talking about 14, 15 people, and then you still got to throw on top of that unemployment. It's about a 3-to-1 ratio. So you're talking 18 to 20 staff members, and I don't know where he's going to get it from, and things of that nature. You have to June 30th to get a balanced budget by law. That's your job. That's state law. You don't have a choice here, okay? So kicking the can down the road and constantly waiting and trying to wait and things of that nature, I don't think it's a good idea. My advice to you is at least tonight to make round one decision. It sounds like the council president was going to do something next Tuesday, if that's what you want to do, and she was going to try to make an effort. You can always change your mind, I guess, next Tuesday, but I urge you to make a decision tonight. That's my advice as your budget analyst. And with that, Madam President, I think that'll conclude my comments, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions anybody may have.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. Councillor Spang, then Councillor St. Hilaire. Councillor Maleta, we'll come back. Councillor Spang, Councillor St. Hilaire, please.
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Perry, I hear you and I hear your advice. I would just ask, to me, I would like to understand the impacts of my vote. So it's not that I am trying to kick the can down the road. It is that I am trying to understand the impacts of my vote. I have heard from a number of residents who are urging me not to go along with the proposed increase to the trash fee. If we are to suggest a lower amount than that, I want to understand what that means and what that means for the city to be able to weigh those costs. I think that's a fair thing to ask for before making the vote. So I mean, that's my position.
I actually don't disagree with that. I wish the mayor could tell us more. He's decided not to. I don't know what else to say about that.
Thank you, Councillor Spang. Councillor St. Hilaire.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to address Mr. Perry's comments about the City Hall project. It is true, I voted in favor of an authorization back in March of 2022. That was 4+ years ago, and a lot has changed since then, okay? We did not have a $3.9 million deficit, and I did not know that the mayor was going to pay for it by jacking the trash fee in all of our residents, okay? And your suggestion about defending our record, I will defend my record to the taxpayers of Beverly all day long, okay? I have no problem canceling this project. It's inappropriate to spend taxpayer dollars on something like this and jacking up the trash fee to pay for it. That is just not the right approach. It's the biggest issue facing our city. I believe there's a way to cancel this project. I don't know if Solicitor Oldmixon would like to weigh in on that right now and how we would go about that, whether the mayor needs to present that to the council or the council can present that to the mayor. But to me, anything is possible. The project hasn't started, okay? And to suggest that we can't do that is inappropriate. So I just want to address those two pieces.
If I may, Madam President, I am not suggesting you not do it. I never said that in my comments. I am bringing to your attention certain facts that have occurred in the past, as well as my opinions on debt management, the size of the debt, things of that nature. I'd love to hear how you could rescind it myself. Maybe the solicitor will help us on that. But the bottom line to it, I never suggested you not do it. I'm just giving you the facts of what happened in the past. And as well, the last thing I say to you, you say things have changed. That's true, it's changed, but we articulated all that even back then in the financial forecast reports. It told you back then that this stuff was coming. Even back in 2022, I would encourage you to go back and look at those reports.
Just in follow-up, I would ask Solicitor Oldmixon if she would comment on the process by which we would cancel the City Hall project, if at all.
Thank you, Solicitor Oldmixon. And while Solicitor Oldmixon is coming to the podium, Mr. Perry, you mentioned before the process within the council, which is set by charter for motion to reconsider. That's a 72-hour maximum. So that would not be the process for this particular vote, given when we took it. Solicitor Oldmixon, anything you want to add to that?
I don't have anything to add tonight on that process. That's the only process that I'm familiar with as far as reconsideration. If you were asking me to look into that and see if there is any other way of doing it, I'm happy to do that, but I certainly can't answer that question tonight.
Thank you, Solicitor.
I would like to ask the solicitor to look into that.
Thank you, Solicitor. I think specifically by charter, we also should send that question to you in writing, and so I can work with the city clerk to communicate that to you on behalf of the council.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Ms. Kent, I'll talk to you about getting that to the solicitor. Thank you. Councilor Rotundo, and then Councilor Milady has decided he's going to go with his hand raised, but Councilor Rotundo.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a statement I want to kind of throw out to my colleagues in regards to why I think for tonight to take a vote, which still has Tuesday night to reconsider your vote for a second vote. Tonight will at least allow whatever we choose for whatever the amendment. The amendment currently is the 300, and I'm happy to make a friendly reconsideration amendment to be 200. But nevertheless, at least at this point, it gives us the process to send to the mayor to come back to us even on Tuesday to say, here is what potential cuts could be, right? So to speak to Councilor Spang's concerns, is because they are mine as well, right? But we don't have anything. The mayor clearly stated that we won't see anything till at least June 1st. But I feel as at least if we're able to give him something tonight as a first vote, doesn't mean that you can always say on Tuesday night that you can change your vote. I mean, as well as I can. But at least this gives us a forward moment of going forward with what we need to give the mayor and his team of what numbers we're kind of at right now. Again, the school budget's going to be presented on Wednesday night. This will give the mayor an opportunity to talk to the superintendent and say, we're looking at this right now as potential $1.4 million. We can identify maybe some on the city side, but there may be identification on the school side. To me, I think it's very important that we do move forward tonight, but still having the knowledge that come Tuesday night, we can, in fact, reconsider our vote at that point. So I just want to remind on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Rotundo. Councilor Milady, and I see Councilor St. Hilaire's hand as well.
So I'm going to, I think, counter my colleague over there, Councilor Rotundo, and say that given the amount of time that I've had to process, and as you have probably muttered to yourself, I'm a slow processor, and that's fine. I don't feel confident enough to make a vote in terms of what the numbers for the mayor's office to toy with, and I don't like giving people more homework to do, but I think based off how the conversation has been going tonight, I think we've given some opportunities for the mayor's team to come up with some hypothetical scenarios. The good news is we've definitely given Paul and Jamie a lot to write about tonight. Looking forward to jacked up trash price possible headline, courtesy of Councilor St. Hilaire. But I can't make a decision based on this short amount of time. And I personally don't like the idea that roofs and HVAC for the schools are going to be held hostage for debt for other projects. The priority was to put the City Hall project before the schools, before the HVAC systems. So I just feel like it's a little bit, I don't know, disingenuous, and I don't appreciate that type of tone that was used in terms of having to make a decision based off of the short amount of time that we've had. And also, we're still probably getting emails as we speak tonight from our constituents. So I just want to be able to do my homework a little bit longer and dig down.
Thank you, Councilor Milady. Mr. Mayor, I see you're at the podium, so I'll go to you. I will just mention that, just process-wise, one of the things that I think we've all heard that we're clear about, this is a proposed ordinance change. Any proposed ordinance change will require 2 readings and 2 votes. There also is a concern to be able to have that done on our end in some meaningful way that gives the mayor's team numbers to work with before presenting us with the June 1st budget. We're a bit, I've heard councilors, I've been thinking that we're a bit chicken and an egg situation. But it would be possible for us to schedule 2 upcoming meetings. We've already pulled for a quorum on Tuesday of next week. I don't think it's an impossibility for us to have a second meeting as well. So that's what I want to just mention there. This would be the sole agenda item on those meetings. I'd already mentioned, but on Tuesday, I would be inclined to open the floor for some public comment as well for councilors who were hoping to be able to get that information in the form of public comment before voting. Mr. Mayor, and then Councilor St. Hilaire and Councilor Feldman.
If I could just, Councilor Milady, I want to make sure I touch on this because I understand what you were just expressing. I think I said it earlier, and I think Mr. Perry repeated it in some fashion, that if we were not to move forward with the City Hall project, the real effect or the real goal would be so that money in the operating budget could be utilized differently. And I think the reality is, it's kind of common wisdom that once money that's dedicated to capital becomes used for a recurring cost, it becomes connected to that recurring cost, it is extremely difficult to pull that money away from that recurring cost because then that recurring cost has to go away. It's really hard to take that money back and put it back into a capital line. And I think that's where the suggestion that if we do this now, future projects will be a lot harder to fund came from. And I think the practical answer would be that, and I said that we have been able to do all these capital projects without going for a debt exclusion at any point in the last 30 plus years, that eroding that capital line further might put us in a position in the future of needing to do just that, to go to the community and ask for 2.5 overrides to fund things like the next projects in line. So, and I know the solicitor wants to touch on I just want to say, I heard the term reconsideration used, I think in a way that's different from how you understand it when you're making official decisions.
So I guess a couple things, just as you've mentioned, President Flowers, ordinance change requires 2 votes. So, but that's 2 successful votes, right? So I just want everyone to keep that in mind, that if it passes once, but not the second time, that's not 2 votes. And then also there's reconsideration, that's within the 72-hour window. I believe what was being discussed earlier was more of a rescission, not just a reconsideration. Is that accurate?
Yes, I believe, and I don't want to speak for you, Councilor Tondo, so please correct me. I believe, Councilor Tondo, you were suggesting that a vote by a councilor made on a first vote for an ordinance change does not mean that they have to make that same vote at the second vote.
That's correct.
Yes.
Absolutely,
Okay.
Right. It's 2 separate votes. I just want to make it clear that
that's not
in order for it to
reconsideration.
pass, it needs to pass both votes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Solicitor. And I also hear you that that's not reconsideration as we would define it in the 72 hours.
Correct.
Got it. I see a lot of hands down here. Councilor Feldman, a timing question.
What would be the harm in terms of the voting timing in taking up these votes as part of the budget process if everything came to us in June as is? Because then that would give, I feel like as a counselor, that would, if it was baked into the budget process where we do have the ability to amend and make cuts to the expenses, we would have a little more say in what was brought to the table instead of bringing it to us with numbers that the cuts were decided where we might not want them. Would there be any harm in baking this into the budget process, since this is clearly part of the budget process?
So, I think if I understand correctly, if you were to wait to vote on this proposed ordinance change and vote sometime in, sometime in June while the budget is before you, you would have a balanced budget presented to you, and then if you weren't to vote for the 425 and no changes had been made, then there would have to be some changes made to the budget to complete it.
I'm saying, if it was brought to us with a proposed 425 without us voting on it, but if we brought the budget like that, then we would have a chance as a council to look at what the expenses would be cut. We would be seeing what is proposed, and instead of the expenses that are cut kind of being held hostage for this vote, we would get a say in those expenses that get cut. Because it's kind of excluding us by forcing this vote in advance and making the cuts behind closed doors before bringing them to the table. We don't get as much of a say in what those cuts would be. So I want to protect our rights as a body to be able to make these informed decisions. And part of that is our ability to cut the budget. And if we have an idea of where we want it cut, but it differs from the mayor, I would rather see that in the process of June rather than voting on this just to see what we would get told.
Thank you, Counselor.
You're pretty much suggesting don't act on the proposals in front of you until the budget's in front of you. Go ahead. Sorry.
I just think this is clearly part of the budget, and we can't, it's like making a decision in a vacuum. I said, I know we need to make both cuts and increase the trash fee. I understand that we need to raise revenues and make cuts, but by putting this revenue vote before the cuts process, it's taking away our ability as a council to look at a budget as proposed and make the cuts that we think should be cut versus the administration. I just feel like this is part of the budget process, so I don't see why we can't just make it them all in June when it's happening.
If I could, Madam President.
Yes, sorry.
It's very interesting because it kind of gets to the nub of it, right? Now, on the one hand, you're saying the city council's ability to impact the budget once it's in front of you is limited to cutting, right? That's in the charter. I would argue that the department heads who I work with daily and our collective sense of what the whole needs and how we would have to address having less revenues to work with than we are proposing now would suggest that that should weigh heavily, right? I mean, on the one hand, if you folks vote to pass a lower fee, leaving us with some money to figure out, human nature might say, you want to make the decision on what to cut, okay. But at the same time, it would really need to be a partnership type of conversation because it is the department heads who work daily in their departments. It is our team that tries to make the whole of it fit and work. So, but your thought of not taking that vote until a budget's in front of you, I understand it. I'm not sure how I should feel about it as you suggested. I will say that since you're planning to meet next Tuesday night, I was told mid-afternoon Friday that there was an interest in doing less than the total that we'd proposed. Wasn't a whole lot of time between then and tonight, particularly with some of the observances and festivities and activities this weekend. So when you ask me where I would go to make up 1.4, I don't have a complete answer. If you're going to be here next Tuesday night, I'm going to try to be here next Tuesday night. We will do some additional thinking and looking, at how we would handle having less to work with and try to be helpful to your understanding in the conversation, if that's where you're going to be come Tuesday.
Counselor St. Hilaire, then Counselor Houseman, and then I am inclined to pause us on this conversation, given the hour, given the fact that members of the public have been with us this long, and given the fact that I am hearing counselors articulate in different ways that people would like more information, whether from the mayor, whether from constituents. I do want to hear from counselors who have their hands raised, but I do think that we've got some time to work through this process, although I recognize that it's tight.
I guess regarding the process and listening to the conversation, I totally hear the perspective that, we don't have the information before us to make a real decision. With that said, I do agree with Councilor Rotundo. We should vote tonight, and we should reject this. And I would reject any increase to the trash fee whatsoever. I am not going to support that. So we might as well send him that message now and let him adjust the budget. With that, I offer recommendations: cancel the City Hall project, eliminate the positions we've added over the last 12 years, eliminate the consultant line items, eliminate travel expenses, eliminate salary increases. Let's work on those safety valves Mr. Ailes always refers to in the city budget, and let's sharpen the pencil. If we do that, we do not have to pass along trash fee increases. I disagree with Councilor Feldman that we need to do that. We do not need to do that.
Mr. Mayor.
I just want to ask a clarifying question. Councilor St. Hilaire is suggesting that you folks vote to eliminate salary increases. Are you suggesting all the salaries of all the employees in the city and schools?
Management salaries for folks directly reporting to you.
So you don't want to not fund union contracts. You want to non-fund
That's correct. The
non-union
management
contracts.
salary increases that are discretionary that we give out every year at about $150K a year.
I have a lot to say about that. I'll wait till I present my budget.
Counselor Houseman.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to, I'm not sure I misunderstood Councilor Milady, so I'm going to take a stab at something that's already been said and see if that, if I misunderstand him or if it assists in a comment he made about not appreciating school roofs and sort of feeling like that's sort of being held hostage. I think maybe you have it backwards, because the idea here is that the the City Hall renovation project, by keeping it, will enable being able to do the school roof projects as they go along. So it's not the, so I'll just leave it at that, because we can talk about it perhaps, offline, but it's a question of understanding the mechanics of funding, of having debt that funds capital expenditure programs. I don't want to belabor the point.
Councilor Milady.
So I did get a C in economics, but as Harry Truman said, C students rule the world. What I understand is that the priority was not putting, so just flip the mindset. We could have fixed the schools, not fixed, we could have updated the school roofs first, and then with that debt, done other projects. I understand the need for debt. I understand that debt's supposed to be a certain percentage. What I'm pointing out is that the priority was focus on this building in that particular vote, not the elementary schools. That's all.
Without getting into the weeds, it's my understanding that in terms of getting assistance from the state to do the school roofs in combination with our debt, you have to wait for the school roofs to reach a certain end of their useful life, and that end of useful life, we're not there yet. So this is about planning down the road for what would come next. So I'll leave it at that. I'm glad that I misunderstood, that I now realize I misunderstood you. But I guess there's more conversation. Yeah, more conversation to be had on that. So thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Solicitor.
Just one brief reminder that any final vote, an ordinance change requires a publication in the newspaper, and any final vote can't take place less than 10 days prior to that publication. That's worded correctly. So I guess my point is that if you're going to vote tonight, Tuesday night can't be the final vote because the publication won't have happened within time.
I appreciate that, Solicitor. Which perhaps then underscores my feeling that the point that we're at this evening is a point of pausing. I've heard several councilors articulate that they would like more time to process and to do their homework even more thoroughly. Councilor St. Hilaire, I hear you saying that you feel ready to vote this evening. With respect, I also think I heard at the beginning that you were interested in hearing public comment before you vote, and so it may not change how you're feeling, I understand that, but it seems like we could accomplish multiple goals that I heard expressed, I think I've heard expressed, to hear public comment, for councilors to have more time, and to have further conversation, perhaps, Mr. Mayor, with you and your team. I think you've had some good conversation back and forth as well, and I do want to acknowledge and thank you for being here with your team and being in that conversation. Councilor Rotundo, I recognize that we do have a motion and a second on the floor. Would you consider withdrawing that motion for this evening so that we could take it up on Tuesday?
I absolutely will. I'll reconsider my motions of the 300 and 210.
Thank you. So councilors, then what that would mean is that it's been reported out from subcommittee, as you heard, amended at the 300 and 210 for now rates. That will remain on our agenda under unfinished business from a previous meeting, and then Ms. Kent will be able to post an agenda for Tuesday. It will be a special meeting of the City Council. This will be our sole agenda item, and we can discuss it as a full council because it has been reported out from subcommittee. We also can take public comment. There will be a public comment time. We can open the floor for public comment, which I intend to do. Mr. Mayor, we can be in touch with you and your team, and we do have a question to send to the solicitor's office on the council's behalf that Councilor St. Hilaire had raised. Do any councilors feel that I missed anything? Councilor Crowley.
One question, if we can ask the administration, I know we've talked about, 425, we've talked about 300, what that would look like. So if we could look at what, the 425 would look like, the 300 would look like, and possibly throw in 200. So we have options on what that looks like in case we ask later. If it was reduced to 200, if it was reduced to 300, what does that look like on the city side or budget effects? Same thing if it stays at the 425.
If I could, just to clarify, you're saying that if the default fee for somebody with a 65-gallon cart is at X dollar, what does that mean for how much it brings in? And if it's not the proposal that we put in front of you, how much does it fall short of the total? Is that how much money does it leave us still needing to figure out?
Yeah, as far as what you're still looking to, because you proposed the 425, and that's going to even everything out. But if we do go to 300, or even if it gets amended to a 200 or lesser than that, what does that look like? As far as to make up, so if you have to make up that amount of dollars, I would like an opportunity to see where that would come from.
Okay. So if you go to 300, and the opt down to 35 gallons is 210 or 200, and you add in an opt up to 95, you have to understand there's a certain amount of, prognosticating to who's going to opt down or up.
Right.
So, you count a percentage of them at the default, and then you fill in the blanks. So is there...
So
we've already got about, and it's a rough, right, it's an estimate, 1.4 if you go to the 300, 210, or 200.
Right.
And if you're suggesting that there might be an appetite for the high default fee to only be 200, I can tell you that'll be 2.8 or 3 million or something in that neighborhood that you'd fall short. It's pretty basic math, right, Brian? Okay. But we can also, if you want to put something in an email or a letter, we can try to get that,
Get it out, go
back to you.
The request for you guys. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Councilor St. Hilaire.
I'd just like to add to that request an option to look at zero increase as well.
4 million. That's 4 million you'd be needing to find elsewhere through a
But
very...
what would be the approach to dealing with that?
You take that vote, and I'll tell you what the approach will be. Okay? Yeah, I don't believe that the council will take that vote, but if you all head in that direction and you let me know that, then we'll start to figure it out.
Thank you, Counselor. So, members of the council, where I believe we are landing is that we will post, but I will announce it tonight so that members of the public who are here or listening on BevCam can also hear it. We will set that special meeting of the full city council for next Tuesday, the 26th, and that will be a 6:30 p.m. start. The sole agenda item will be to discuss the trash fee structure that we're discussing this evening and to be able to talk about the proposed amendment that came out of legal affairs with the reduced fee structure. We've heard that there will be other information that we'll be receiving, be able to talk about that evening. And so Ms. Kent will work to get an agenda posted. That will be here in council chambers starting at 6:30 p.m. on Tuesday. Our next regular meeting will be on Monday, June 1st. As folks heard this evening, we set a number of public hearings for that meeting, which means that members of the public can sign up to speak in any of those when they arrive in council chambers. Among those public hearings was included the request to transfer the money from the certified free cash balance for the trash carts. So for anybody who's following the process and wondering why we're not discussing that very fully this evening, before us this evening was to set a public hearing for that. That will happen at our regular meeting on June 1st. There are other public hearings that evening as well. And as we just heard the mayor say, that we will also officially receive the mayor's proposed FY27 budget in the context of that meeting. That will also kick off a series of specific finance and property meetings, committee of the whole cross-posted, which Finance and Property Chair Feldman will be leading as we consider the budget and go through those different portions of the budget conversation. And so that schedule will also be posted as usual on the city's agenda center, and those meetings are also open to the public, of course. Councilors, are there any other announcements or reminders from members of the council at this point? Councilor Stein.
Thank you, Madam President. Tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, there will be a opening ceremony for the Knot Spot Public Art project. It is a nautical knot tying exhibit down at the waterfront. So that's at 6. Everyone is welcome. And then Saturday at 10 o'clock, there's a litter cleanup for the downtown area, if anybody wants to help.
Thank you very much, Councilor. And the weather tomorrow looks like it'll be a really good day to be down on the water, looking at some nautical knots. Councilor Sonia.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to let folks know on behalf of the Beverly Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Committee that they are in the process of doing elementary school walk audits. Walk audits are great. I've been on a lot, and I do recommend going on them if you have concerns about your own neighborhood. They started today at Hannah, and then they go Friday the 22nd at Cove, the 26th at Centerville, June 3rd at North Beverly, and June 5th at Ayers Ryleside. All walk audits are 2:30 to 4:30. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilor. Are there any other announcements or reminders from the council? Well, I will again reiterate our thanks to Mayor Cahill and members of his team who have been here this evening to answer questions, present more about the trash structure, and answer our questions this evening. Very big thank you to members of the public who joined us for this meeting. I know it was a longer one, and we really appreciate your being here, whether in the chamber or following us on BevCam, as well as those who signed up to speak earlier. And just another word of congratulations and thanks for both our exemplary youth who we honored earlier this evening, and Marie Parisi, a teacher at the YMCA, who made a life-saving decision and action and helped to save the life of a preschool child. And so we thank Marie and her friends and family for being here as well. So with that, councilors, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. All those in favor? That's 9-0. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Good night.